Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. Not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack's at Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculousness that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes sweet and sassy. Not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, my friends, and thank you so much for going to hang out with me on this early morning. Today is Thursday, December 5th, 2024. And how is everyone doing today? Yesterday was a crazy day. Crazy day. The manhunt is still on for the assassin of the CEO of United Healthcare that happened yesterday in New York City, right outside the Hilton Hotel. Earlier in the day, it happened at 6:45, something like 6:46 in the morning. I covered that yesterday during the live press conference of the NYPD. They are still looking for the guy, the not so professional assassin of that practically broad daylight killing right in front of the Midtown Hilton on 6th Avenue between 53rd and 54th. It was wild for those of you who've been following that story. I guess he's still on the run. But there was a guy, I'm going to call him a kid because he's a kid. And he posted something on Twitter and he said something like, I scrape the city bike data every minute, just like for fun. This is what he does for fun. And he's like, I know exactly which city bike that guy picked up. I know there was only one city bike in the area that was picked up. It's city bike number this. It was picked up at this location and dropped off at this location. And who knows, maybe this kid could crack the case. Last time I looked at that tweet, he had something like 4 million views on that tweet. So it's crazy. So much stuff is coming out. There were things written on the casings. Yeah. And yeah, I hope to catch up on that later today because there's so much more information coming out. This guy, the CEO, had sold millions of dollars in stock options that he had back in February. There's a federal probe into United Healthcare. He could have been looking at some federal charges. Kathy already did a recap. That's the funny one. Kathy's so funny. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. She's like, listen, don't come to me for the facts. Just come to me for like the gossip, rumor, and innuendo. She's like, I don't know the facts. I'll give you the facts. Kathy will give you the funny. And she wakes me up every morning with another funny video, often about things that aren't really funny, but she finds the humor in it. And it is crazy. Yeah, they found a Starbucks cup in the garbage. The guy went to Starbucks. Apparently he was waiting out all night targeting the CEO. And it's crazy. It's a crazy story. I don't know how he's still not in custody, but you can bet that they're on it. Yeah. Messages on the casings that had something to do with a book that was written. And it was what was written on them, I think, don't quote me right now because I don't have my notes up, but it's something like deny, disclaim, depose, something like that, which is what insurance companies do. For anyone who's ever had a claim denied, that's what they do. And apparently United Healthcare has the highest percentage of denied claims at something like 32%. So a lot of people thought it was like somebody who was disgruntled. Maybe they had a family member dying and they couldn't get the treatment that they needed approved or something like that. I mean, there are a lot of theories going around out there, but it's always for me when I look at these cases, a lot of times follow the money. Follow the money. Could it have been? I don't, and this is total speculation, total speculation. Could it have been that this guy knew that he was facing some major federal charges, sold all the stock options to get his family some money, and then had somebody off him so that his wife could get insurance and his family could get insurance because he knew he was going to go away for a long time? Like, who knows? Who knows? I don't know. Or, was it a disgruntled claimant who had claims denied? Based on the out there type of comments on this story, a lot of people have absolutely zero empathy for the victim and really thought he deserved it because of where he worked, which I think is kind of horrific, but it just gives you a sort of a glimpse into how much people hate health insurance companies and how many people have had to deal with denied claims and are fighting for their lives. There was a woman in my comments yesterday who was going off on it, and then people were commenting, and she said something like, "I'm fighting for my life at the same time that I'm fighting with an insurance company." And I said, "Oh, I feel you. Like, fighting an insurance company can be a full-time job. It really can. And when you're fighting for your life, and then on top of that, you have to fight your carrier to pay claims, like for a bone marrow transplant or for something else that could save your life that they're going to deem, is not medically necessary or experimental. It's insane, right?" So, and yeah, people found it odd that the wife came out right away and was giving explanations like he had a lot of threats. I'm sure he had threats constantly. I'm sure that was a huge part of his day, was just getting threats and death threats from claimants who were having their claims denied. It is infuriating. You have a child dying of some disease and they refuse to what was the John Grisham movie about that years and years ago, about people who were being denied basic health insurance, and there was a huge lawsuit. It was The Firm. I don't know. It was one of those John Grisham movies, like years and years and years ago. But it's real, and the hatred is real. And I don't know what happened. I don't think we're going to know for a while. And I know that law enforcement is also keeping a lot of it to the vest right now, as well. They should. They gave out a lot more information than I thought they would have at this point, with the messages on those shell casings. Like, that was interesting, which makes me think a lot of people thought he wasn't a professional because he kept racking the gun. And then there were some unspent casings that came out, and maybe it was planned that way. Like, maybe the unspent casings were the ones that had the words on them. I don't know. It's crazy, right? The Rainmaker. Thank you. Thank you, Bees Loving Life. Yes, the Rainmaker. Yeah, exactly. No matter what your job is, you shouldn't be killed for it. But it's interesting how we have so much information on a case that happened a murder that happened literally a little over 24 hours ago. And the information is just, it's out there. I wanted to show you this because, well, first of all, Dead & Company's coming back to the Sphere. They announced that yesterday. So that's exciting, in Las Vegas for a number of shows during next March, April, and May. I've already been in touch with Andrea Burkhart, and I think we're going to go the same weekend, and we are going to have an amazing time. So listen, it is so important in life, just in general, to have something to look forward to. And part of my life was always looking forward to the Grateful Dead shows twice a year, spring tour and fall tour. And I'm very excited about that. Yes, this guy who just downloaded the City Bike info for fun. He said, I scrape that data every minute, which I thought was so wild. And it just goes to show how many people, how many armchair detectives really are out there that can really help with some of these cases, right? I want to show you this. Hang on. This also happened last night in New York City. You know. I don't think I can I can play the video, but I don't think I can play the music. Wait, let me just see. It's actually some words. Okay, so let me start it from the top. Do, 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 do. Let's just get you in the spirit. I woke up to snow today. Did anybody else have snow today where you are? Oh, wait, I got to take it from the top. Take it from the top. Refresh. is the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. There it is. Lit up last night at about, I'm going to rewind it again so we can just watch it at the countdown. Hold on. I love it. But every time, like, it doesn't let me like pause it so that I can hear the full on countdown. All right. By the time I get to unmute it, it's too late. Duh. All right, let's see if we can try that again.
3, 2, 1.
Woo! Yeah, somebody wrote here something about the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree just means it's truly the holiday season. Yep. Yay! Yay! One data to another. Are you going to go to the Sphere? I went last time. It was so amazing, Kate. If you can make the trip, make it. The pre-registration starts, I think, today, and then pre-sale tickets go on sale on the 10th, and then on sale to the public, I think, is something like December 13th. It is well worth the trip. Well worth the trip. It's an amazing experience. It's a really good time. And where else can you see however many people the Sphere seats all smiling at the same time for 4 hours straight? It's an amazing experience. If you know, you know. Thank you so much, Kate, for your early morning compliments. Because, you know, I get a lot of hate out there. And so it's always nice to have some compliments in the morning. Thank you so very much. Well, we are moving on today back to Karen Reed. Who's afraid of Dr. Russell? Dr. Russell, Dr. Russell. Who's afraid of Dr. Russell? I think it's Hanky Panky. Well, my singing voice is not, you know, what it ever is, ever. And it's never ever good, but it keeps you laughing, hopefully. And this morning, I woke up to a really nice Venmo, a really generous Venmo from a viewer who said to me, and I got to read you her message. Her name is Julie. And she wrote this to me. She said, I am, wait, let me find it. I don't know, Julie, if you're watching right now, if you're with a client. She said, I'm a massage therapist and I listen to you in my earbuds while I am working on my clients. And she said, and when you say free Billy Tibbetts, that's all I can do not to crack up laughing. So this one's for you, Julie. Free Billy Tibbetts. Free my boy, Billy Tibbetts. So how great is that? You never know how you can make someone's day. So you know what, you guys, make it your point today to make someone's day. Make someone's day. Compliment a stranger. Wow, I love your shoes. Wow, I love your hair looks great. Oh, I love that shirt. You never know what your kind words can do for another person. You just never know. That's what it is. Thank you, Romy. The words on the casings are similar to Jay Feynman's book, Delay, Deny, Defend, about insurance companies. Thank you. All right. Well, who's afraid of Dr. Marie Russell? Well, I'll tell you who, the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is afraid of Dr. Marie Russell. And they even, well, we knew this motion to preclude was coming because they're doing the Daubert hearing next Thursday, the 12th. So we knew this was no surprise. I mean, the Twidiots out there are like, oh, look what they filed it. Okay, well, they filed it. Yeah, we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. It's going to be really tough for them to win this motion because this exact same judge, Judge Cannoni, has already qualified Dr. Russell as an expert. So do you expect her to now say that she was wrong the first time and she never should have qualified her as an expert? You know, Bev. I know, Bev. We know, Bev. She's not going to overrule herself and say, I made a mistake. Like, ever. Can you ever see that happening? On top, for being on top of the super sticker, as always, Mike B from the 413. Yep. Rainmaker was the name of the movie. If you haven't seen it, it's a great old John Grisham book and movie from, like, I don't know, the 90s probably. Harry Potter's beard became a new member. Thank you. Police arrived in 2 minutes to the scene yesterday. Right. For the, as Kathy would say, unfortunate unaliving of Brian R. Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare. How about Chesterfield take notes? Right? Chesterfield took them 20 minutes to get to the camp home when their home invader tried to kill them. Kate, I already thanked you. Romy, I thanked you. And the Goodwins are here. Hello, Goodwins. Good morning. Morning. This is a great time. Look at us. We had over 2,000 people in here before 9 a.m. Eastern. And I love that for us. I love it for us. Isn't it great to start off the morning together? Because, you know, It's only going to get better from here. Thank you, Goodwins. And thank you for listening. And hopefully some of you may be on your commute to work. I can entertain you on your commute to work. Let's do it. Here's the plan. Here's the plan of what we're going to do. We're going to look at the motion. Then we're going to look at the asks. And then we're going to go back and we're going to rewatch the voir dire that they've already done of Dr. Russell during the last trial. We're going to talk about her experience. And quite honestly, I have never seen a more qualified expert. It's wild that they're making this motion. And the only reason they're making it is either because, well, I guess it's worth a shot at this point, right? And if they really, really, really don't want her testimony, why not just hire an expert to counter her testimony? Why not just hire an expert? This is going to be a battle of the experts case. We've said this since the beginning. So many of the witnesses were not telling the truth when they got on the stand. So many of the police reports, not even police reports, the interviews are fakakta. There's no notes. They didn't type them up for months later. They're contradictory. So many of the witnesses that were at 34 Fairview give completely conflicting statements when they give 3 statements. I went to the house. I didn't go to the house. Karen said I hit him. I never hit him. I hit him? Could I have hit him? And then things are just popping up. Like the eyewitness testimony of people that is just completely discountable. This is going to come down to like the battle of the experts. Was John O'Keefe hit by a car? Yes or no? That's it. It's really, really, really that simple. Yeah. Was she a Boston Globe subscriber and for how long? Yeah. That was the big lie, right? The big lie. Oh, they found, she found them. They didn't find her. She found them. Or they, she was friends with somebody at the DA's office and that's how they got, who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how an expert comes to you. That's like saying, well, this eyewitness on the train when Daniel Penny was there, they didn't stick around. They left because they had to get to work. And then they reached out to the police afterwards. So therefore you should just not allow them to testify because the police didn't find them. They found the police. Like, it's a ridiculous argument. No, it's really not common to do a voir dire the second time. That's a great question. She's already been qualified by this exact same judge in this exact same trial as an expert witness. And she's an expert medical witness. So look, new prosecutor, new trial. I guess she thought she'd give Hank Brennan a bite at the apple, but another bite at the apple, let's say. But in many ways, I think he's just showing his inexperience by making this motion. And part of me is just like thinking that Lally is just sitting back and being like, go on, go ahead, do it. Thinking like, I wouldn't do it, but you go ahead. It's just reeks of many things, many things. Look at this. This is funny. Melanie, little left swipe in StreamYard. I love your name. Says, good morning. Why in the Karen Reed trial do I think that DA means desperate attempt and ADA means another desperate attempt? I'll allow it. That's hilarious. And I will get my voice and hopefully not have too many tongue twisters. Thank you for the 10. That is very, very, very funny. I'm just the girl in the world. Says it's snowing in Massachusetts. Thanks for being with me for 6 months. Yellow Cottage Cheese. David Reese says, ironically, Billy Tibbetts was arrested for harassment and witness intimidation of a police chief and his family. Ironic, but isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic. Yeah, I really do think. Billy Tibbetts, free my boy, Billy Tibbetts. All right, let's take a look at the documents first. This is paper number or document number 435. We're in the 400s on this. 435. This is the Commonwealth's motion to exclude the testimony of Dr. Marie Russell and the request for they say Daubert. My law professor said Daubert. It's French. I don't know, Daubert. I don't know. People say that the guy whose name is Daubert says Daubert for purposes of clarity and consistency. I'm going to say Daubert because that's what the judge says. Daubert Lanigan hearing. Lanigan is the Commonwealth, the Massachusetts case that is similar and on point with Daubert. I don't know. Tomato, tomato. The Commonwealth respectfully moves this honorable court, and this was filed December 3rd. Today is, December 5th, so we're not that far behind on this one. Things were just popping off every day, and the Daniel Penny jury is still out, and I'm really getting nervous about that. Although they did ask for a readback yesterday of the cross-examination of the medical examiner, which I think is very, very good for the defense. So prayers up for Daniel Penny, and let's hope that that verdict comes in today, because I don't know how much longer I can wait. Okay. The Commonwealth respectfully moves this honorable court to exclude the defendant's proposed expert testimony of Dr. Marie Russell because, 1, the defendant failed to prove that the testimony meets the requirements set forth in Daubert and Lanigan. 2, the defendant failed to prove that Dr. Russell is a qualified expert in the field of canine bites or claw marks, veterinary medical science, forensic odontology, or canine behaviors. And 3, the testimony cannot be reliably applied to the facts. Okay, I just have to stop right here before my head blows off. Let me ask you all a question. Chatters, subs, cupcakes. If your child is bitten by a dog, do you take your child to the veterinarian? Or do you take your child to the emergency room to see a doctor? How many dog bites do veterinarians see on humans on a regular basis? I mean, if your dog is attacked by another dog, or your cat is attacked by another dog, or your horse is attacked by a dog, perhaps the veterinarian might see those dog bites. But is he really saying in the first paragraph of this motion that the proper expert to opine as to the cause of those injuries to Officer John O'Keefe's right arm is a veterinary medical science expert? Good morning, Olivia. Olivia says, I'm pretty sure that the judge allowing her as a credible expert last trial is very much an endorsement of the proof that Dr. Marie Russell was in fact proven as a reliable expert witness. Agreed. That's why I am finding a lot of humor and an experience in this motion. And I also want to point out to you the typical expert witnesses to testify in a criminal trial and the typical expert witnesses that criminal defense attorneys and prosecutors are familiar with are such things like scientific experts, ballistic experts, forensic experts, fingerprint experts, medical examiners who are opining on cause of death, right? Not so much treating doctors and medical experts, because criminal cases typically involve a lot of forensics and scientific experts. I mean, it's already in the first paragraph showing inexperience to me. Forensic odontology or canine behaviors. So you're saying that in order to opine that the injuries were caused by dog bites, which by the way was not the cause of death anyway, happened, and she opined that these injuries happened before death, not post-mortem, because of bruising and other things. How does canine behaviors have to do with anything regarding the cause of these injuries? Tell me you didn't watch the trial without telling me you didn't watch the trial, Hank. Thank you, Steph. Exactly what I was going to say. How does canine behaviors have anything to do with the fact of whether or not her opinion, and by the way, the standard is with a reasonable degree of medical certainty, it is my opinion that the injuries to his arm were caused by an animal, specifically a large breed dog. Okay. And then he says, the testimony cannot be reliably applied to the facts. Well, counselor, my brother Brennan, the facts are disputed here. What you say are the facts are not what the defense is agreeing that the facts are, okay? So there are questions of fact here, and that's why both sides need experts so that the finder of fact, which is the jury in this case, because it's not a bench trial, the jury is the finder of facts. The jury is going to be the one to determine the facts, not the judge. Okay? So we know from the first trial, justice for Chloe, we know that the Alberts who lived in the home had a dog named Chloe. It was a dog. They referred to their dog as it. We know because we're going to look at Nicole Albert's testimony too. We know that a few months after Officer O'Keefe's body was found on the lawn at 34 Fairview, the Alberts decided to rehome her to Vermont, which was something coincidentally, interestingly enough, that the defense was never told, despite the fact that Nicole Albert testified on the stand. She did tell the prosecution where Chloe was, and Chloe was in Vermont, and she even met the woman halfway who took Chloe, and that she knew where Chloe was in case Chloe would ever be needed for anything else. We know that there was a dog, a large breed German Shepherd, Chloe, who had been the family pet for something like 6 or 7 years. And that is a fact because it was testified to by more than one person on the stand who are third-party witnesses, right? So that is a fact. Based on the pattern of the injuries, well, we'll wait for that. We'll listen to Dr. We'll let Dr. Russell tell us about her experience. Procedural history. On May 21st of 2024, the defendant provided the Commonwealth with the curriculum vitae. That's also it's a resume of an expert of Dr. Marie Russell, a proposed expert witness not previously disclosed, Exhibit 1. And that was during the trial, you recall, because the trial started somewhere at the end of April, and the mistrial was declared July 1st. Defense counsel reported to the court that they first engaged with Dr. Russell on May 17th, 2024. On May 30th of 2024, during the sixth week of the defendant's first trial, and after the Commonwealth had called over 50 witnesses, over 50 painful what if any witnesses, the Commonwealth received the following limited synopsis about Dr. Russell. However, the Commonwealth never received any written reports or opinions. And I've said this many, many times. Oftentimes, you do not need your expert to write an opinion or a report. It's not always necessary. They were on a tight timeline here. They did give the other side, under these automatic discovery rules, the synopsis of what she was going to testify about and what her experience is. And it's not always necessary to have a written report from an expert. And this, he's quoting here from, he doesn't even say what is he quoting from? I guess the exchange. Okay, this is the synopsis, the written synopsis that they received from the defense. Quote, she has reviewed the autopsy photos, grand jury testimony of Dr. Scorty Bello. As you recall, that was the medical examiner who did the autopsy. The entirety of the autopsy report, all reports associated with Chloe's prior bite history, but except I'm going to point out that in the Vanity Fair article, they found another person who had been bitten by Chloe in 2018. So, I mean, this actually helps the defense because this time Dr. Russell is going to be so much better prepared. They are not on the tight timeline that they were last time in the middle of trial. And also, There are more things that she can review, including the new bite history from that 2018 bite uncovered by the Vanity Fair reporter. Photographs of the items in evidence and the UC Davis DNA testing results and evidence submission forms. She is expected to be called with focused testimony related to the right arm injuries sustained by Mr. O'Keefe. Dr. Russell will testify that the wounds and injuries on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm are consistent with an animal attack, namely teeth or claw marks, or a combination of both from an animal. She will also testify that these injuries are inconsistent with having been struck by a vehicle, road rash, or scratches from broken glass or taillight material. She will base her opinions and conclusions in part on having treated hundreds of patients in the ER with injuries sustained from animal attacks, including dogs. Yeah, over 50 witnesses, nobody saw or heard anything. Nope. Nope. They sure didn't. On June 6th of 2024, the Commonwealth moved to exclude Dr. Russell due to the defendant's failure to comply with Rule 14 and renewed its request for reciprocal discovery by seeking court-ordered production of the required expert proffers, opinion evidence, and all expert reports. On June 18th of 2024, the court ruled that the defendant violated Rule 14 for the failure to comply with reciprocal and expert discovery. So it took the judge 12 days to rule on that motion during trial. The only remedy to the Commonwealth was an opportunity to conduct a voir dire examination of the defendant's experts, including Dr. Russell, 2 months into trial on June 18th of 2024. I just want to point out that the inverted Sally Port video was never turned over until Buchanan was on the stand. So, there's that. And that's not even expert testimony. That's like actual video of, what some of these law enforcement officers called the scene, right? Because the scene wasn't just the 34 Fairview, according to some of their logic. The scene was also at the Canton PD. So Canton PD Sallyport was also the scene. Well, it was the scene of something, maybe the scene of some crime, but it certainly wasn't the scene of the death event of police officer John O'Keefe. Following the voir dire hearing, the court permitted Dr. Russell to testify and render an opinion that the abrasions on the victim's arm were inflicted by either teeth or claw marks and consistent with a large dog. Argument. The Commonwealth moves that this court reconsider its finding that Dr. Russell was qualified to render an opinion in the defendant's first trial, and that the methodology or theory underlying her opinion, particularly without any corroborating evidence, was reliable. An expert witness is not permitted to testify to matters beyond an area of expertise or competence. And this is citing a case called Commonwealth v. Rentala, which we're going to talk about because I pulled it and I read it. And it's completely different from this case, but we're going to talk about that. The Commonwealth asserts that Dr. Russell is not qualified to render an opinion about the victim's injuries, nor is her opinion reliable, and respectfully requests a Daubert hearing to assess whether the defendant may call Dr. Russell in her second trial. So they want another Daubert hearing in addition to the one that they had during the first trial, in which Judge Cannoni said Dr. Russell is an expert in dog bites and she can testify. Okay? Yes, Jonathan, yes. That's exactly what I was going to say. Cara Rentala was tried 4 times. Same prosecutor. It was Gagney who tried Brian Camp, who was also on that case. Yep. And Jonathan, if that's you, and you took your last name off your username, I would say smart. The role of expert testimony is to assist jurors in interpreting evidence that lies outside their common experience. It is the defendant's burden to establish that Dr. Russell's testimony will assist the trier of fact to understand the evidence or determine a fact in issue, and that the methodology or theory underlying the expert testimony is sufficiently reliable to be presented for the jury's consideration. The crucial issue in determining whether a witness is qualified to give an expert opinion is whether the witness has sufficient education, training, and experience and familiarity with the subject matter of the testimony. And again, they cite Rintala. Although Dr. Russell is a trained emergency room physician, the defendant has failed to prove that Dr. Russell has a reliable basis in the knowledge and experience of her discipline to render an opinion in the field of canine bites or claw marks, veterinary medical science, forensic odontology, or canine behavior. I mean, the argument is almost too ridiculous for me to even address. And I'm going to say it again for people in the back. Who do you think has seen more dog bites on humans? A medical doctor who worked in an emergency room for something like 40 years, or a veterinarian? It's almost so obvious that it doesn't even need to be repeated. What does canine behavior have to do with an opinion about whether or not the injuries in this photograph, in her 40 years experience, or however long it is, because we're going to listen to her tell us about experience, whether those injuries are dog bites? She wrote 2 papers on it. Thank you, Stephanie. Is he literally suggesting that a veterinarian would be a better expert to say that these are dog bites? It's laughable. But okay, if you want to go there, and this is why when I did that Garrett Wing show, I said, Garrett's not the kind of expert that they would probably allow in Massachusetts to testify about the cause of dog bites, because he's not a medical doctor. He's not a medical witness. But now what Hank has done here has opened the door to a potential expert who can come in and talk about canine behavior, right? In addition to the doctor who can testify about the actual injuries. Bring it on. Let's get somebody to come in and talk about canine behavior, German Shepherds, how German Shepherds behave, how a German Shepherd who has already bitten people will now go on to bite more people because they got a taste of their first bite. New York used to have a 1 bite rule. Every dog was entitled to 1 free bite. But after that first bite, the owner of the dog was on notice that their dog had vicious propensities because they had already bit one person. So if you were on notice that your dog had already bit one person and your dog bit a second person, well, there's liability there in a civil case for dog bites. But you know what? You want to open the door? Good. Kick the door in, because we're coming. Let's come in now with somebody who can testify as to dog bites, who has studied dog bites. If you know, you know. Canine behavior. Specifically big dogs, specifically police dogs, specifically washed out canine dogs, specifically what dog bites look like, what dog bites look like on a prosthetic, specifically perpetrators who, if someone also had been a police officer who was a canine officer, had seen perps attacked by dogs who were trained to bite, and how oftentimes a dog who's not trained to bite, by the way, does not leave bottom teeth marks because they're not trained to bite and hold the way a canine, very experienced dog is trained to get 1 bite and hold. You don't have to take my word for it. I did a show with somebody, Garrett Wing, who told us all about why sometimes on a dog who is not trained, you will not see bottom teeth marks, because the dog will grab on the person's natural instinct is to pull their arm away, and that's why you get those drag marks. Okay. So there's that. So if you want to kick the door in on this, then yeah, bring them both in. I mean, because he's saying right here, that's okay with him, right? But I would submit to you that the proper expert is not a veterinarian, because veterinarians don't study dog bites. They study how to treat dogs for their medical conditions. Just my opinion. And then he goes on to say this. Okay. Then he goes on to say this, which I find so brazen and just so rude. And just so like, most of Dr. Russell's canine experience was from 28 years ago. Okay, so what? So how old is Dr. Bodden? Dr. Bodden was around during the OJ case. Dr. Bodden is like one of the most renowned medical examiner, forensic experts in his field. Have dog bites changed a whole lot since 28 years ago? The mechanism of injury, are dogs like now biting in a different way than they did 28 years ago? Has the science changed? Have the injuries changed? Yeah, what's changed in 28 years? To me, that lends her more credibility. That's how long she's been around studying this. And then he says, and focused on law enforcement canines in a 1996 article, Managing Law Enforcement, Canine Dog Bites in the Emergency Department. During her trial testimony, Dr. Russell conceded there was no law enforcement canine involved, and in her experience, a bite and hold injury that law enforcement canines are trained to do would appear different than a domestic canine, and arguably vastly different from the victim's minor abrasions, which were isolated to one area of his forearm. I'm sorry, Mr. Hanky Panky, Mr. Brennan. Have you seen the photographs of the arm? Because they were not isolated to one area of his forearm. In fact, they were all the way up to his bicep, sir, his bicep. And they were not minor. You've seen the pictures of the arm. I don't want to pull it up because the YouTube doesn't like it. You've seen the pictures. They weren't minor, and they were not isolated to one area of his forearm. Yeah, no. And also, okay, since, nobody knows where Chloe is, and nobody really talked about Chloe and whether or not she was a canine washout. In fact, Garrett, I think, said that typically female dogs are not trained as canines. So it would be unusual she is a canine washout. So there's some conflicting information on that. But you know who would know? Brian Albert. So here's the thing. Yeah, I know. Brennan is bringing in a dog behavior expert. So what's good for the goose, right? That guy? What's good for the goose? Good for the gander. I mean, now they can just give him the old 1-2 punch. The medical expert who can opine as to the medical cause of the dog bite injuries, and then the canine expert who can testify these are absolutely from a dog. Brian Albert would know if the dog was a washed-out canine, right? Opens up the door onto that with regard to that as well. So, I mean, tell me you didn't even look at the autopsy photos. Isolated. I got to mark this up because I like my red pen. Isolated to one area of his forearm, and they're minor? Huh. Okay. Well, what would you call some major dog bites? Medical examiners also do not see a lot of dog bites because it is quite rare that someone would die from a dog attack. And typically when they do, it's a very young child. And I can't recall right now off the top of my head whether Dr. Irene Scorti Bello was questioned about that. about whether she had ever did an autopsy on anyone who had been killed by a dog, but that would be interesting to know. While Dr. Russell may be able to provide expertise on how one would treat or provide wound care, she lacks sufficient expertise in identifying characteristics of a canine bite, predominantly from an autopsy photograph. Well, no, she can't examine the body, can she? Because, a little too late for that, right? And also, here's the other thing. No tissue samples were preserved from Officer O'Keefe's right arm. No tissue samples were preserved, and no swabs were taken from his arm either. So there's that. Dr. Russell also has no training in forensic animal odontology, nor any training or expertise in animal behaviors or domestic animal attacks. Well, the dog isn't on trial here. Is it? The dog's not on trial, and the dog isn't even the cause of death here. So, quite honestly, I don't see how that applies, but I don't know. I tend to use reasoning and logic. With only anecdotal experience and no corroborating evidence. Anecdotal experience? She has actual experience in treating patients, thousands of patients who are attacked by animals and who are attacked by dogs and other animals. She has treated thousands of patients. That's not anecdotal experience. And no corroborating evidence. Well, what corroborating evidence does she need? Do we need an eyewitness to a dog attack? Or is the fact that a large breed, a German Shepherd, lived in the home and had attacked other people and animals? Some after this and some before this. Dr. Russell should not be permitted to testify that the injury depicted was specifically caused by a large dog, consistent with teeth or claw marks, and that there were puncture marks, little round marks, inflicted by the actual point of the tooth. Okay, well, maybe this time she can be prepped and shown pictures of John O'Keefe's shirts. Because when you look at the shirts, you can clearly see puncture marks in the shirts. Not slashes or knife marks, puncture holes in the shirts, right? You've seen them. Maybe we'll pull them up if I can find them somewhere I save things in so many different places that I really need to get better organized, but a jury should not be permitted to consider such speculative evidence, and Daubert Lanigan requires that this court determine whether the expert's conclusions have a reliable factual basis and are limited only to matters within Dr. Russell's precise field of expertise. Oh, and look, there's a case called Commonwealth v. Little. Not me. In 2009. A proposed expert's opinion should be disregarded where it amounts to no more than mere speculation or a guess from subordinate facts that do not give adequate support to the conclusion reached. The knowledge of a proposed expert must indicate more than subjective belief or unsupported speculation. I mean, they just keep doubling down on that. Furthermore, Dr. Russell's opinion is in dispute with forensic findings that there was no canine DNA associated with the swabs taken from the area of the victim's clothing near the abrasions. Dr. Russell had failed to review the UC Davis veterinary genetics DNA report prior to rendering her opinion and testifying at the voir dire hearing. Dr. Russell testified that she did review the DNA report, indicating there was no canine DNA present. However, her opinion did not change. The court need not and should not admit unreliable opinion testimony based only upon the expert's unsupported assertions and desire to render an opinion that resolves an substantiated and defense-driven controversy. But isn't that what trials are all about? Doesn't the jury need to be the finder of fact here? I mean, okay. No canine DNA associated with the swabs taken. Okay, let's talk about that. Just briefly. Like Lally. I'll be brief. Number one, the chain of custody of the clothing was, I mean, an abomination. It was thrown in a bag with other things all together, wet in the trunk. Who knows? It's very unclear. It's very unclear. The testimony is very conflicting. When the clothing apparently did at some point get to the Canton PD, it was put in the evidence room on some sort of butcher paper, which, by the way, probably based on the fact that they used solo cups and Stop and Shop bags, could have been butcher paper that somebody brought like pork shoulder home in the day before, hence the pig DNA. But, I don't know. That's mere speculation on my part. But based on Canton PD and MSP's use of evidence collecting materials, I wouldn't be surprised if it was used butcher paper, but whatever. Was it Maureen Hartnett who swabbed that clothing? And by the way, the clothing wasn't swabbed until over a year later. Over a year later, nobody really knows where the clothing was, stored until then. Maybe it was put in an envelope with some taillight pieces. Like, it's very unclear because, Proctor's blowing in the wind right now out there on some hiatus of some sort. And we don't really know what's going on with his status. And I don't really care right now, but, really? Really? Um, Whoever it was, I think it was Maureen Hartnett that swabbed it, doesn't remember exactly which areas she swabbed, right? And then she took one swab and swabbed all the areas that she swabbed, which were not all the areas on the shirt, by the way. And then put the Q-tips that were whatever, swabs that she swabbed all into the same envelope and then sent them off to the lab at UC Davis. So the very nice woman, forensic, I'm not sure what her title was exactly, scientist, the canine DNA specialist from UC Davis who works like in a trailer outside the university, did not supervise the swabbing. She did not, I think that maybe the person who did the swabbing called her and asked her how to do it because she had never done it before. Clothing could have been washed. We have no idea, right? I mean, the clothing is very, like the blood stain, like there's just like the blood stains look like they're washed. I don't know. Who knows what went on with that clothing? The point is that is the testimony. That is the evidence that is not really reliable in this case. The chain of custody, right? So in my opinion, all of that should be just tossed, and maybe they should make a motion to throw all of that testimony out based on the testimony at the last trial. The improper swabbing, the improper technique, the fact that it was done over a year later, the fact that I think they were still waiting on the canine swabs like during the trial or be right before the trial or something like that. Olivia, if you're here, you probably know the timeline better than I do. Would the canine DNA still even be remaining after over a year? Is it where did you find any Tide pen residue on the swabs that you collected? Like, it's just so unreliable that it's ridiculous. Had they taken tissue samples from the arm, maybe somebody could recover some canine DNA at this point. But I think it's a non-starter. She said even if there was no DNA, canine DNA on the clothing, it wouldn't change my opinion that these are dog bites. Okay. So that argument's not really very convincing to me either. In addition to whether Dr. Russell is qualified, this court must also determine that the expert's testimony is sufficiently reliable to reach the jury. As the proponent of the evidence, the defendant must prove by a preponderance of the evidence that Dr. Russell's methods and processes behind her opinion, despite a lack of any corroborating evidence, are scientifically reliable. She's a medical expert. She's a doctor. She's not a paint expert like that case that we're going to talk about, Rintala, in a minute. In Lanigan, the Supreme Judicial Court adopted a portion of the Supreme Court's ruling in Daubert that held that general acceptance in the relevant scientific community will continue to be the significant and often the only issue, but that a proponent of scientific opinion evidence may demonstrate the reliability or validity of the underlying scientific theory or process by some other means. This is a doctor giving a medical opinion, okay? This is not a forensic expert. This is a doctor opining on the cause of injuries with a reasonable degree of medical certainty. And by the use of this logic, Dr. Renee Stonebridge should be required to say how Officer John O'Keefe's frontal skull fractures were caused, how his temporal skull fractures were caused, how the skull fractures to the base of his skull, what caused that? What caused the herniation of the brainstem? What caused the subdural hemorrhages, the subarachnoid hemorrhages within the brain? Exactly what caused it. Was it a punch? Was he hit with a baseball bat? Was he hit with a weight? Did he fall and smash his head on a weight bench? How much force was it? If it was a punch, how big was the person who punched it? Was it a right-hand punch, a left-hand punch? I mean, this is kind of a ridiculous argument. The proponent of the evidence may establish reliability by demonstrating general acceptance of the methodology in the relevant scientific community or by applying a non-exclusive list of Daubert factors, including whether the scientific theory or process has general acceptance in the relevant scientific community. This is the medical community. We're not talking about ballistics. Has been or can be subjected to testing, has been subjected to peer review and publication, has an unacceptably high known or potential rate of error, and is governed by recognized standards. General acceptance in the relevant community continues to be sufficient to establish the reliability, regardless of other Daubert factors. And here's Rintala, so we're going to go to that in a second. Simply stated, if the process or theory underlying an expert's opinion lacks reliability, that opinion should not reach the trier of fact. Dr. Russell claimed no scientific or technical basis for her opinions and offered little more than anecdotal experience and vague generalizations. Yeah, and 28 years in an emergency room treating thousands of dog bites. That's not anecdotal and that's not vague. During trial testimony, this court sustained several objections during Dr. Russell's direct examination. Oh, shocking. Ms. Delally, would you like to object? As Dr. Russell attempted to set forth her opinion, and she lacked any reliable methodology or explanation for assessing how it could be opined that the abrasion was from a canine versus a different animal or versus a blunt force object, how she could assess the size of the supposed canine, and what her methodology was to opine there were puncture marks from the points of a tooth, but also by quite possibly a claw. No methodology was even alluded to within her testimony at any point. Somebody wrote in my comments the other day that my swallowing of my drink was really, really, really bothering them, and that I should turn off my mic when I swallow my drink. So, there's that. This court must limit its analysis to reliability of the methodology suggested, not the perceived persuasiveness of a proposed expert's conclusions, particularly one that Dr. Russell is not qualified to make, which is not supported by evidence nor scientific reliability, and was born 6 weeks into trial. I wasn't born 6 weeks into trial. They've been talking about dog bites since the beginning of this case. They've been trying to find out where the dog is. Apparently, you guys knew all along where the dog was. Conclusion, for the foregoing reasons, the Commonwealth respectfully requests that the defendant satisfy her burden, establishing Dr. Marie Russell's proposed testimony meets the requirements set forth in Daubert and Lanigan, and that the testimony of Dr. Marie Russell be excluded at the defendant's upcoming trial. XOXO. Hank Brennan, specially appointed district attorney. Oh, no, he's the specially appointed assistant district attorney. Adam Lally, Waterboy, and Laura McLaughlin, the girl who sits there and the only thing she ever did was stand up in court and lie by saying, oh, maybe she didn't lie. Sorry. Maybe she just misspoke when she said that the 3,074 pages that were turned over by the feds had nothing exculpatory in them and that it was basically everything that everyone already knew. Except, you know, the guy never went in the house. She's a whack job C word with a Fall River accent and so many other things included in that document dump by the feds. But, you know, there's that. Let's take a look at one of the cases upon which they rely. And this is that Rentala case. Maybe some of you who are from the Massachusetts area remember this case. The tab. All right. Or not. Wait, hold on. Okay. So this case, Rentala, was it was a murder case, and it goes back to, it was a homicide all the way back. I think it was 2016. Where's Melanie Little's left swiping StreamYard? See, it happened. You're on point today, girl. You're on point. Okay. So this was a murder trial that happened all the way back in the conviction was 2016. The murder was in March of 2010. The defendant was a paramedic who lived in Granby. And she killed her wife. And that's what she was on trial for. There were I think at least two mistrials. And the facts of the case were that, let me share this with you. But was it snowing? I don't know. It was in March. Could be late March snow. Yeah, we need some more likes, or I'm going to turn off the air conditioning. Or maybe, you know, the heat today. I'll turn off the heat. Swiper keeps swiping. I know. So the defendant's name was Kara Rentala. Right? Was that her name? Kara? Yeah. Kara Rentala. So her story was that she, March 29th of 2010, she was a paramedic. She returned to her home that she shared with her wife, the victim, and shortly after entering the home, she saw the victim at the bottom of the stairs to the basement. The defendant initially only saw the victim's feet in the basement. Before going down to check on the victim, the defendant first brought their daughter and their dog to a neighbor and asked the neighbor to call 911. When first responders arrived, they found the defendant in the basement with the victim. Paramedics quickly determined that the victim was dead, and several members of the Granby Police Department brought the defendant upstairs. She spoke briefly with an officer at the scene before going to the Granby Police Station to speak with a state police detective working with the office of the district attorney for the Northwestern District. Okay, wow, this is in the same district as Brian Camp, number one. Number two, this was also tried by Stephen Gagney, who is the ADA, I guess, who tried Brian Camp's case. Oh, and it looks like amicus curiae briefs were filed by the New England Innocence Project and also for the Center for integrity in forensic science. That's interesting. Judge Mulqueen was the judge. Chauncey Wood for the defendant. Look at that. They took her down to the police station to interview her. Imagine. Crazy. Isn't that crazy? Various members of the state police responded to the scene and initiated an investigation. They extensively photographed the scene and collected physical evidence. What? Investigators recovered a container of paint from the floor near the body. When first responders had arrived, they observed paint all over the defendant, the victim, and the basement floor. The two paramedics and the first two police officers on scene offered various descriptions of the paint, each generally describing the paint as white, wet, and shiny. The victim had 23 distinct bruises all over her body, all of which appeared recent or fresh. These included multiple blunt injuries to the victim's head. The victim also had wounds around her neck, and the medical examiner concluded that the cause of death was manual strangulation. The defendant told the detectives that she and the victim had been arguing the night before, as the victim had been upset about the defendant socializing with a male friend at home while the victim was at work. The defendant said she left the house sometime around 3 p.m. on the day of the homicide. After leaving the house, the defendant went to a number of different locations. She eventually went to the Holyoke Mall, where she was identified on surveillance video footage just before 5 p.m. From there, defendant stopped at a restaurant, 547. She didn't enter the restaurant. Anyway, going on and on and on. The expert at issue here is a paint drying expert. Okay. This is not a medical expert opining as to the cause of the bruises or the cause of death or anything like that. They called a guy who works for a paint company to talk about how long the paint had been there based on his photographs and how long it took for paint to dry. And he did a whole bunch of testing on his own, and he did like a whole bunch of experiments in his basement. And he was allowed to testify as to his experiments that he did, that he said that the Commonwealth sought to determine whether the drying time of the paint could be extrapolated from the change of the color of the paint on the basement floor. Incidentally, they also had a concrete floor in their basement. And the trial judge allowed this expert in to testify. And the expert was a quality engineer at a paint company, bachelor's degree in chemistry, a minor in physics. He had worked in the paint industry for 20 years. This is like apples and oranges. Okay. He did not design the paint at issue in this case. He just did a whole bunch of experiments in his basement or in his lab or in his office or something. And he was able to testify as to his conclusions, a paint drying expert. Exactly. Exactly. And the whatever this was, the SJC Court of Appeals, whatever, said, yeah, no, that was an improper admission of an expert. In fact, they're saying this judge didn't even conduct a Daubert hearing. They just sort of filed papers, said, we want this expert excluded. Court said, no, this expert's going to be allowed to testify. And then he talked all about the paint and how long it would have taken the paint to dry. And he acknowledged on the stand this area was a new realm for him, as he had never before poured paint and watched it as it dried. So he had never watched paint dry before. This was his first time, and he was allowed to testify about the paint drying. Okay. So this is if this is your authority for excluding Dr. Russell, you should just have Mr. Lally pack up your backpack and just go home. Just go home. Right? So in any event, the abuse court was like, yeah, no. That was I think it was reversible error, and it went back for the fourth trial at this point. Yeah, it was sent back for a new trial. So there were 2 mistrials on this case initially. Then there was a conviction. And then, based on the fact that they allowed this paint expert in, they were like, okay, go back. And if any of you know what happened with the fourth trial, let me know. So there's that. Yeah, there's such a thing. There's such a thing as that. Let's go back and let's go hearken back. Let's hearken back, my friends. We love to hearken. We're going to hearken back because this was some of the best days. Remember the old days, my guys, my friends, remember the old days of the actual Karen Read trial. We're going to hearken all the way back to June 18th, 2024, when we were together, all the way back then. And we're going to watch Alan Jackson, smooth as butter, do the first of voir dire of Dr. Russell, and we may see a second. Let's just go to the chat for a moment before we remind ourselves how much fun we had during that trial. I mean, together. It was a horrible thing, but the fact that we even have to go through this again is. Hi, Marcy. AJ's Red Eye Flight says the defense should tell the Commonwealth, fine, we will have Dr. Russell provide the information requested. In return, please have your taillight expert do the same. Mm-hmm. Thanks for that. Thanks, I'm just a girl in the world for you, super sticker. Brooklyn Janet, good morning. Many people not showing sympathy for this killing. Yeah, we're talking about Brian Thompson. It's not Thompson, right? Not Thomas. Because they are rightfully angry at greed of insurance companies and loss of life of millions denied coverage. United Healthcare is worth over $350 billion. Yeah, I know. I can see it. I can see it in the comments. Romy, in my opinion, they are attempting to financially drain Karen with motions like this. Yeah, a lot of people out there are very angry that people are donating to her legal defense fund. So maybe a lot of people think that they're just trying to drain her of funds. Read. I'm a book. The defense needs Garrett Wing as an expert too. Well, I mean, who knows? There's no way, in my opinion, that the judge can exclude Dr. Russell because she's already approved her as an expert. She's already qualified her. She's been qualified, and you can bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun. But you can also bet your bottom dollar that she's going to be far better prepped this time because we have so much time. She's coming in next Thursday. We're going to be here. We're going to cover it live. Wait, it's a week from today, right? The 12th. Yep. And that hearing that they're flying Dr. Russell in for, I believe, is at 9 a.m. Same time as Chloe Driver's sentencing. I don't know. Maybe things will change. We'll see. Camille says, how insulting to her years and years of experience. Well, I don't think she'll be insulted. I think she's a pretty tough chick. But yeah. Yeah, I agree. Sue Esponte. Hank spells sufficient. So efficient. So efficient. Uh-huh. I see what you did there, Sue Esponte. And I like it. I'll allow it. Victor Mann says she wrote the book on dog bites. Yep, she did. Thank you for your super chat. And Gwennon says forensic odontology has been deemed junk science. You're right. And I was going to bring that up too. So I'm glad that you did. So I know because listen, Alan Jackson has many, many specialties. One of his specialties is forensics and data and experts. And this is what he does. So I am sure that he will bring that up, likely. Mrs. Bucket, thank you so much for your super sticker. Devin, Hanky Panky needs a spanky. I see what you did there. I like it. Well done. Allow it. Mike B from the 413. Thank you for the 20. I can't believe Hank is using the Rentala trial. There were 4 of them. Okay, thanks, Mike. I worked the neighboring town to Cara Rentala. Great paramedic. Her attorney for the appeal and trial 4 is Rosemary Sapiccio, who has 2 Brady letter clients with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. So are you saying trial 4 didn't happen and you're a paramedic? First of all, thank you for your service. Second of all, crazy case, right? And even crazier if this 4th trial hasn't happened yet. We may need to cover it. We may need to go back up there to I think it was Hampshire County, right? Thank you for your 20. Love is a 4-letter word. Thanks for the 10. Mr. Henke, the Christmas poo, knows the injuries aren't from a taillight. How can the Commonwealth's experts speak on dogs' behavior that he hasn't observed? Exactly. Cupcakes are life. We love you. Oh, I love you too. I love you too. Thank you so much for your positivity this morning. Oh, and look, Amy's positive pathways is also feeling positive. Thanks for the 5. I feel like the prosecution's confusing everything. Dr. Russell is a very expert. How is she not, Mr. Hankey? Agreed. I agree. We're going to listen to her tell us her qualifications. Rescue Puppy, thanks for the 20. In Ohio, an ER doctor must report dog bites to the county health department. So the health department has a report. A letter is sent to the dog owner. The dog must be quarantined for rabies if rabies symptoms show dog is euthanized and the brain is tested. Yeah. And I can't recall if the woman who was attacked, and wasn't her friend bitten also in 2018 by Chloe? If they went to the hospital, I wonder if they did call the animal control, right? Because they also had trouble getting the animal control records, as I recall. Silver Penny, Spanky is building a defense against the defense again, right? Again, they're on the defense. They're on the defense because they're calling their own dog expert. Why would they call their own dog expert if their theory is that he didn't get bit by a dog? It strains credulity. Why are you calling? What is your canine expert going to say? Chloe was a good dog? Chloe never would bite anybody? But I thought Chloe has nothing to do with this. I mean, it's kind of like you can't have it both ways. I mean, it's just weird. Why didn't the defense object to the dog? But I mean, I don't know that they filed anything yet. They're agreeing to it because in their opinion, Alan Jackson's a very highly skilled attorney. He knows that she is qualified 100%. And she's already been qualified by this exact judge. So if they want it, give it to them. Kylie, thanks for the 10. Law enforcement canine dog bites, injuries, complications, and trends in law enforcement canine dog bites are her papers from the Annuals of Emergency Medicine. Thank you. Thank you for that, Kylie. Thanks for the 10. Spirit Healing says, Ruthie, my golden doodle, has to get involved in every hug, turns into a group hug. In my opinion, Chloe got involved when there was a ruckus. She joined right in when they attacked Officer O'Keefe. I think people feel that way. Thank you for your super chat and for your opinion. JSMP Jen, thanks for the 5. My hubby's a veterinarian and would never examine a human for a dog bite. So just saying, right? Exactly. I mean, to even insinuate that would be a better expert to opine on dog bites is it's laughable. Read. I'm a book. Seems like Hank Brennan's trying to almost blow up his own prosecution. So strange. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Thanks, OG Squirrel and Wrecking Ball, for becoming a member. Vets only see dog bites when a dog bites them. Thank you, Kelly Jane. That's what I'm saying. Dana says, you're 100% correct. My daughter is an Army veterinarian who works with military working dogs. I showed her the photo. She said she has an opinion, but echoed what you stated. Medical doctors see bites. Yeah, thank you, Dana. Thank you, super chat, and for validating me. I appreciate it. Oh, here's Fairy Ribbon from Ireland. Lally made a fool of himself trying to be a tough guy with Dr. Russell. Yeah. Remember that? Oh, yeah. I think we should watch it, don't you think? Let's watch it. Maybe defense didn't object so they can argue her testimony shouldn't be limited this time. Yeah, exactly. Fine. Let her come in. Let her talk about all the other stuff she has reviewed since the last trial. And now perhaps her opinions are a bit stronger. And now, based on the new information that Chloe bit a couple of people all the way back in 2018, she may strengthen her opinion. Great point. Okay, great point. Here we go. Let's listen to this. This goes back to whatever date I said it was before, all the way back in June of 2024. This was the first. They spent a whole day. They called in Dr. Russell. They flew her in, and they also called in the crash daddies. And the crash daddies also were required to get up on the stand and talk about what they were going to testify about outside the presence of the jury. And the judge decided whether or not she was going to let them testify as experts. And here we go.
Filed a certificate of compliance.
When? First, they're talking about the late exchange. And if you recall, also, their exchange was late because the Commonwealth never filed their certificate of compliance, indicating that they were done with their discovery, which is when the time starts to run for the defense to, exchange their stuff.
The course of the trial is a dynamic thing.
Trial is a dynamic thing. Thank you. We're going to fast forward a little bit. Baby shark.
Full interview by Lieutenant Tully. It was and I don't have it on me at this.
Of course, he didn't have anything on him. He needs a trial binder. Could somebody teach him how to make?
The day before trial, so it would have been, I believe, April 15th.
All right, let's go to Dr. Russell coming on the stand.
Report for
Who is that?
Dr. Fowler.
Okay, here's Dr. Russell. Took him a little minute.
Whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
It's safe to say.
Morning.
Remember, this is outside the presence of the jury.
So I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up. Speak right into that microphone, doctor, okay?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr.
Smile
Jackson.
at the doctor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes. Marie Russell, Russell.
And I'm going to echo what the court just indicated. The air conditioners are on, so please keep your voice as elevated as possible and speak. Maneuver the microphone however you need to, okay?
Okay.
Dr. Russell, what do you do for a living?
I am a retired emergency physician and forensic pathologist.
And tell me what education you have, going all the way back to the beginning, that qualifies you as an emergency physician and former pathologist before you retired.
Okay, well, I've had about at least 16 years of formal education beyond high school. Initially, I started at MIT, where I did my pre-med courses. I had always wanted to be a physician. And so I went to MIT for a year, took pre-med courses. And then I had an unusual life event in that my mother came down with cancer and she subsequently passed away. During the time away, so I took some time off from school. During that period of time, I decided to explore another interest of mine, which was law enforcement. And so I took some courses in law enforcement and I became a full-time police officer here in Massachusetts.
What years were you at MIT?
That was 1972 to 1974.
Did you go to the police academy?
I did. When once I became a police officer here in Massachusetts, I attended the Boston Police Academy where I graduated.
What year was that?
That was in 1977.
During the course of your training as a police officer, did you have any specialized training in hit and run and accidents and investigations?
Yes, I did.
And which agent?
Well, that's interesting too, because now if I'm, oh, wow, this gets better. I forgot about this. This gets better. Now, not only, first of all, she got into MIT. Okay, just stop right there. In 1972, as a woman to be admitted to, MIT, she's like smarter than everyone. And then her mother gets cancer. She takes some time off. And now she goes into the police academy. And I think, did she say Boston PD? She also investigated hit and run accidents. Now, I'm Alan Jackson. I'm like, okay, Your Honor, not only is she going to be able to testify about the dog bite injuries, because she's got all that other experience, she also investigated how many hit and run accidents with regard to pedestrians and the injuries sustained by those people also. And maybe she will be allowed to testify about, in her experience as not only an emergency room doctor treating victims of pedestrian strikes, but also as a police officer responding to scenes of pedestrian strikes, whether or not the injuries sustained by John O'Keefe were sustained with regard to a hit and run motor vehicle accident. This is genius. I forgot about this part.
What agency did you work for as a sworn peace officer?
I worked for the city of Malden full-time for 7 years.
That would be from 1977 to 1984, approximately?
Correct.
During that time, did you continue your education in any way?
I did. So I took as many courses as I could from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council, which included a several-day course in hit and run accident investigation. I took courses in forensic photography, and numerous other things. And then, and I also at the same time continued to go to college, and I did that part-time, where I eventually got a bachelor's degree of science in psychology with highest honors.
What institution was that from?
That was from Northeastern University.
And that was a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology?
I think it was a Bachelor of Science.
Got it. Subsequent to your Bachelor of Science degree from Northeastern, did you also advance your education further, formally?
Subsequent to, so yes, so I decided that I did want to pursue a medical career. And so I then attended medical school, University of Massachusetts Medical School full-time for 4 years.
Did you ultimately get a degree, an MD degree from UMass?
Yes, a Doctor of Medicine degree in 1987.
So you were there from 1983 to 1987, is that right?
That is correct.
And did you do a residency?
I did 2 residencies, actually. Most people do 1, but I did 2. I did, my first residency was a combined internship and residency for 4 years. And I did that in Los Angeles at Los Angeles County Medical Center, which is a very big trauma center, and what I would consider the Bellevue of the West Coast. Very busy.
You say that just because of the volume at USC Medical Center?
That is correct.
Is it one of the busiest medical trauma centers in the country?
Yes.
You were there from 1987 to 1991, is that right?
Yes, I did my ER internship and residency during those years. Yes, there.
During that time, were you seeing patients?
Oh, yes.
You were treating patients?
Lots of them.
You were attending to patients?
I was a trainee, so I was seeing as many patients as we could. There was always a waiting room full of patients, and yeah, so I saw many patients during that time period.
Did you indicated a second residency? Tell me about that.
Okay, so I still realized I had an interest in forensics, and so I decided that I wanted to also train in forensic pathology. So I did a second residency in anatomic pathology, 2 years, followed by forensic pathology fellowship at the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office for 2 years.
And the years, if that's 4 years, that would be from 1991 to 1995 approximately?
That is correct.
Tell me what your experience was as a fellow at the Los Angeles Coroner's Office, Los Angeles County Coroner's Office.
Yes, well, it also was a very busy coroner's office. And so every day there would be cases. I probably did at least 2 cases a day, most days, and plus conferences and educational opportunities. But the interesting thing about being a fellow is they try to give you a wide assortment of cases. So, for instance, I not only saw numerous victims of gunshot violence and stabbings, but I saw numerous victims of motor vehicle accidents and natural death, overdoses. And then if there was an unusual case, it usually went to the fellow, because the fellow was also being supervised. So,
did any of those unusual cases, and we'll get more into this in just a second, but did any of those unusual cases include animal attacks?
Yes.
Did you become a professor, an educator at any point?
Yes. So during my 29 years at LA County Hospital, during the last 25 of those, I was a assistant professor or an instructor, but mostly an assistant professor. And what that meant is that I was responsible for overseeing the care that was provided by the interns and residents. So when a patient would come in into the hospital, the emergency room, they were oftentimes usually seen by the intern or resident, and then I would go and subsequently see that patient also. So, and that was in addition to my own cases. So I'd see my cases and their cases.
It's a treating hospital. It's a teaching hospital. Not all hospitals are teaching hospitals.
Correct?
That is correct. And
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
LAUSC, for those of us who are not necessarily familiar with it, is that associated with the University of Southern California Medical Center?
Yes.
That's the school, in other words, the site.
Yes, so it stands for Los Angeles County / University of Southern California Medical Center.
And that's where you were an assistant professor for the majority of the rest of your career.
Correct.
Were you also an assistant or an adjunct professor at Cal State Los Angeles?
Yes,
Okay. For how long were you an adjunct professor there?
I believe that was 4 or 5 years. And I taught criminalistics, forensic medicine there.
Hmm.
As an attending physician in the ER, in other words, a supervising physician in the ER, can you tell us what some of your duties and responsibilities included, especially as it pertains to trauma? And then I'll get more specific in just a second.
Okay, well, so I would oversee the care of all the patients that came in during a particular shift. And that would include medical patients and trauma patients. And as I mentioned, it was a very busy trauma center. So we had lots of trauma patients, including the types of violence I described earlier that I saw at the coroner's office, but lots of motor vehicle accident victims, because there was a highway there right nearby. There were a couple of highways, so a wide variety of accidents.
Did your supervision include assessing, diagnosing, and treating patients?
Correct.
In terms of
Okay, if you're just tuning in, we are reviewing the original voir dire of Dr. Russell during the first trial, because Hank Brennan is trying to tell the court that this witness, Dr. Marie Russell, is unqualified to testify about the dog bite injuries to Officer O'Keefe's right arm. And so we are going back over her qualifications because, in my opinion, she is one of the most qualified experts that I have ever seen. And she's already been qualified as an expert by the judge. We went over the papers first. Now we're looking at this voir dire. And then we're going to talk about some other things and stuff.
the middle part of that, diagnosis, was part of your job to determine the cause of injuries, or to at least assess the cause of injuries?
Yes, and I took that on a little bit more because I was interested in the forensics aspect of the injuries.
The forensic aspect.
Yes.
Okay. During your time at LAUSC, even after you left the Los Angeles coroner's office as a fellow, did you continue to stay in contact with the coroner's office and have a relationship with the coroner's office as a supervising physician?
I continued to stay in contact with the coroner's office, and I used to attend their conferences as often as I could, not as a supervising physician, but as a physician and a graduate of their program.
During your tenure at LAUSC, did you ever become the director of any programs at LAUSC?
Yes.
Does that include the director of Center for Life Support Training?
Yes.
What years was that, if you remember?
I don't remember that.
Early 2000s, late 90s?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Okay.
And we would conduct lots of courses, including trauma, life support courses.
Did LAUSC incorporate a quality improvement program
Yes.
within their institution?
Yes.
Did you become a director of that as well?
Yes.
So you were director of Center for Life Support Training and director of LAUSC Medical Center Quality Improvement, is that right?
The quality improvement was for the emergency department.
All right.
Yes.
And did you also become the director for jail medical services?
Yes.
What is the association between LAUSC and the very, very expansive jail system in Los Angeles County?
So LA County Hospital was unique in that they many, many years ago developed a jail, what they called a jail ward, which was a combined inpatient, outpatient, and ER. So there was a dedicated jail ER. And that has been in existence for probably about 70 years now. And patients that were placed under arrest by either LA sheriffs, LAPD, California Highway Patrol, or any of the municipal agencies in the area, and I think there were about 70 or more municipal agencies, could bring their patients to the LA County jail ward where the patients would get treatment.
Ultimately, you became the director of that entire program, correct?
Yes.
Did you also work with the State Medical Board of California in any capacity?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
For about 7 years, I worked part-time for the California Medical Board as a physician assigned to one of their enforcement teams. And I did that 1 day a week, and I did my other job at the county hospital the other 40 hours a week.
So you didn't take off time from your duties as an ER physician, as an emergency physician. This was in addition to you being an emergency physician.
That is correct.
Did you hold the title of Chief Medical Executive for the California State Prison System, specifically at Corcoran?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I retired from LA County Hospital, and I went on to move on to the the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
And what year was that? Did you make that transition?
So 2018 is when I started for the state prison system.
Okay.
And I worked there for 5 years as director of their medical service
So
in Corcoran.
I'm sorry. So for that prison, within that system, you were the chief medical executive for the entire agency, correct?
That is correct.
right.
For the entire prison.
Understood. Are you board certified in emergency medicine?
Yes.
Are you a member of the National Association of Medical Examiners?
Yes.
Are you a member of the American Academy of Forensic Science?
Yes.
Do you have any publications in the area? And I'm going to be very specific because you've been relatively widely published. Is that right?
Some people would say yes, some people would say no.
More than a couple of publications
Correct.
and peer-reviewed journals, correct?
Yes.
I want to focus your attention on animal injuries. Have you been published in the area of animal injuries specifically?
Yes.
Do you recall those publications?
Yes, they had to do with law enforcement dog bites.
Did you draft an article or co-author an article called Managing Law Enforcement Dog Bites in the ER?
Yes, I was a co-author.
1996?
Sounds right.
And that was a peer-reviewed article,
Yes.
ultimately published,
Yes.
and ultimately available to be cited by other doctors and studied by other doctors, correct?
Correct.
Did you also author or co-author an article entitled Law Enforcement Canine Dog Bites, Injuries, Complications, and Trends?
Yes, I did.
Was that in 1997?
Sounds right.
Was that also peer-reviewed?
Yes.
And that publication was also available for other physicians throughout California and throughout the country to refer to for the study of animal bites and dog bites, correct?
Dog bites, yes.
Dog bites. Concerning animal injuries, during the course of your professional experience, how many patients have you seen, diagnosed, and or treated with animal injuries, including dog?
Shelly Babes, I'm going to delete your comment because I don't like the dirty words in the chat. So thanks for your comment, but try and keep it clean because YouTube has like AI that scans chats and then they strike streams and thanks.
Dog bites and scratches, if you had to estimate.
Many
that back.
hundreds.
Hold on. So she says that she's, some people may say that I'm highly published. He didn't even ask her how many other articles she's published. These are just the two that she has published on law enforcement dog bites. And the reason that she published those is because she's treating prisoners in the state prison. Do you know how many perps are caught by canine dogs and brought to the ground? And that's how they catch them? That's why her focus was on law enforcement dog bites, because she was treating prisoners who had been taken down by police canines. See?
Seen, diagnosed, and or treated with animal injuries, including dog bites and scratches, if you had to estimate?
Many hundreds.
Many hundreds she's treated.
Would you say it's over or under 1,000?
I would say it's over 500. I don't know because we didn't keep really good records back in the earlier days.
But it's safe to say you've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dog bites and scratches.
Yes, in my 29 years at LA County Hospital, yes. And my dog bites I took care of and dog bites that the residents took care of, yes.
And you've even published articles and studied, not just seen them, but studied dog bites and dog wounds, correct?
Yes.
How are they going to say, how can they say with
Have you qualified?
a straight face, she's not qualified to opine on dog bites? Really? And Trooper Paul, took a course and he's your expert. So, I don't know. I'm embarrassed. I have secondhand embarrassment.
As an expert previously in other courts as in emergency medicine?
Yes.
Have you qualified as an expert in other courts in forensic pathology and wounds?
Yes.
Has that been in both state and federal court?
Yes.
Doctor, were you asked to review certain materials related to this case?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to take that back. She's been
And that was in
qualified as an
furtherance of coming
expert
to, if you
in
could,
state and federal courts as in both forensic emergency medicine and forensic pathology and wounds.
state and federal court
Right.
in emergency medicine.
Yes.
Have you qualified as an expert in other courts in forensic pathology and wounds?
Yeah.
Yes.
Forensic pathology and wounds.
Has that been in both state and federal court?
Yes.
Doctor, were you asked to review certain materials related to this case?
Yes.
I forget. Maybe somebody remembers how many times was Whiffen ever qualified as an expert in any court? He was Canadian. Was he ever qualified in any court as an expert? I don't recall.
And that was in furtherance of coming to, if you could, come to an opinion or a conclusion about injuries to the victim in this case, a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
Yes.
What did you review in anticipation of your determining whether or not you could come to an opinion or a conclusion?
So I reviewed hospital photographs, autopsy photographs, an autopsy report, grand jury testimony from the medical examiner in this case. There may be some other.
Based on
I just want to ask about that. Do you have notes with you as to what you reviewed?
No.
Okay, so when you say there might be other, you don't.
Well,
If he tells you what you reviewed, you'd know it.
I would recognize it.
All right, but I want to hear it from you. You
I see.
don't know of anything else
Okay.
that you've reviewed? This is sort of important, Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
Can you think of anything else, Doctor,
No,
besides
autopsy.
these?
Autopsy photographs, autopsy report, neuropathology report, toxicology report, and the grand jury testimony.
okay, so as you recall, the items that you reviewed include an autopsy report by Dr. Scortibello, correct?
Yes.
A neuropathology report by a doctor named Stonebridge, correct?
Yes.
Toxicological reports associated with the autopsy,
Yes.
grand jury transcripts from Dr. Scortibello,
Yes.
photographs of evidence items, including a gray sweatshirt,
Oh, yes. Yes.
and autopsy photos that were taken attendant to the actual autopsy.
Yes. And photographs that were taken in the hospital. And I reviewed the hospital ER record also.
So in addition to what you just listed, there's also hospital photos separate and apart from the autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes.
And those hospital photos showed the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, is that right?
Yes.
And you also reviewed emergency room records that are attendant to his initial acceptance into the emergency room on January 29th, 2022, correct?
That's correct.
Based on your review of all of those materials, were you able to confidently come to any conclusions or opinions about the nature of the injuries suffered by John O'Keefe, specifically as they relate to John O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes.
What is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those injuries appear to be consistent with an animal attack.
Can you be more specific
Your
in
opinion.
terms of the type of animal, or are you relegated to simply an animal attack?
Well, they are consistent with a large dog attack. There's a combination of both what I consider bite wounds and scratch wounds on the arm. There were also some puncture wounds in that shirt.
Oh, she did look at the
And on
shirt.
the-
So I'm sorry, puncture wounds in the shirt?
Puncture holes
Okay.
in the shirt.
And on what do you base the opinion that the injuries are consistent with dog bite or scratch marks?
Well, the patterns. There are several patterns of parallel wounds that appear to be superficial scratches that could have been caused by nails or could have been caused by teeth. There are different angles on the arm and different locations on the arm, and but they're generally oriented in a specific direction. And there's also an area, the distal forearm, which is close to the wrist, which shows what I believe is an arch area of teeth marks.
Hmm.
And what's the significance of the arch area?
Well, so the arch would be the front area of the jaw of the animal, you know, or the dog in this case, where the teeth tend to be close together and curved. There's a curved pattern to the configuration of the teeth.
I'm gonna have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
She sounds pretty qualified to me. One of the most qualified experts I've ever seen. Prohawk VJ says, what hasn't Dr. Russell done for a living? Starbucks barista? Oh, he's talking to Craig, man of the tiny desk. Remember, Craig Bates came on the show one day. That was such a fun show. We love Craig. Thanks, Prohawk VJ, for your super chat. Oh, thank you, Yellow Cottage Cheese. Cara Ronaldo was convicted of voluntary manslaughter last year and sentenced to 12 to 14 years. Yes. One of my amazing paralegals, Jonathan, just sent me a Dropbox folder on documents on that. If you guys want to go over that sometime, I think it's up on appeal now.
Doctor, I want to show you a series of photographs. Can I approach you on it?
Yes.
Camille says they need to make a superhero based just on her life story. Thanks, Camille, for your super chat.
First, can you describe whether or not you recognize what's depicted in that photograph? Have you seen that photograph before?
Yes, I have.
Is that part of what you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
What is that a photograph of?
So this is a photograph of the decedent's arm near the elbow. And do you want me to describe what it shows?
Just briefly. An
Okay.
overview of what.
Yeah, and it shows wounds.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that that be marked as next in order of evidence.
All right, so for this voir dire, we'll have separate evidence, right? Is this an exhibit number in the trial already?
It has not been marked yet, so I'm fine with starting over, sort of. For the
This time, let's give her pictures of Chloe. How much did Chloe weigh? How big was Chloe? Are these bites consistent with this particular dog? We don't know where it is. But I bet the vet records would show how much Chloe weighed close to her rehoming. Yeah?
purposes of what your process are.
So this will be a separate voir dire with separate exhibit, yes,
So it's going to be exhibit one.
yes.
Your Honor, I want to move this along. This has been marked, but I think.
Hold on. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
This one
Apologizing.
of the three has already been marked, but if, just for consistency, I'd rather mark it additionally for voir dire. Yes.
Need a separate record for the voir dire.
May I approach?
Yes.
This one's already been marked, but I'll remark it.
And if you'd tell me the exhibit numbers that they are.
Life on makeup. That's a great question, and I don't know the answer. Were there
So
photos of Chloe's
putting
previous
these in now,
attacks?
there's no objection, Mr. Lally?
For
Maybe
purposes of this, no.
prepared?
Okay. So we'll mark these now, but
May I approach?
Yes.
The one with the label 2858 on the bottom has previously been marked in the trial. I would ask that this be marked as the next in order for the voir dire.
And also in evidence, you said?
May I just establish the foundation?
Yes.
The following two photographs that I just showed you, Doctor, do you recognize those?
Yes,
Did you also review those in terms of, in furtherance of coming to your opinions and conclusions?
yes,
Do they also appear to be different photographs of John O'Keefe's arm?
yes.
I would move for the admission of both of those, Your Honor, for purposes of voir dire.
There's been no objection to them, so they're in. They're already marked.
I just need to know which one's 2 and which one's 3. May I approach?
Yes.
Mary, the reasons are in the papers, which we just read right before this. You're saying she's not qualified, yeah.
Okay, that's. With court permission, may I publish
Yes.
Exhibit 2 for voir dire?
Yes.
Is this a photograph of the of John O'Keefe's arm?
Yes,
Is this one of the several photographs that you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
yes,
I want to ask you a couple of questions about this. There should be a laser pointer on the desk.
I mean, we're going to get stricken
Can you
because of
explain to
this,
the
but I'll
jurors
put the,
what it is about the injuries that assisted you in coming to your opinion and conclusion that this is from an animal attack?
okay, there's several patterns here. So for instance, let's look here, right near the elbow, the exterior part of the elbow. There's these two linear marks, which appear to be from upper teeth, and two punctures below those, which are superficial, meaning they didn't go very deep into the skin, but they appear from the lower teeth. So that's one pattern. There's another pattern close to the shoulder, which shows parallel marks, these two, and maybe a third one in the middle, parallel marks that are oriented at a certain angle. And these are superficial wounds, which are consistent with teeth marks. They also could be possibly consistent with nail marks, but
With what?
nails from
Claws.
cloth, yes.
All right.
We have some more here, similar from obviously different teeth involved or different claws, and then down here, closer to the wrist, we have an unusual pattern of at least 4 striations, the way I see it, at least 4 striations that I believe are caused from the teeth towards the front of the mouth, near the arch.
okay, well, because this photograph has been on the screen for so long, we're going to need to take a brief commercial break right now. And speaking of United Healthcare, and as such, United Healthcare had a major breach, major data breach at the beginning of this year. You might remember that they had a major data breach, and every person who has ever had United Healthcare, every single person's social security number and personal information, including medical information, has been released to the dark web. But don't worry, my friends, don't worry, because I have a sponsor who can help you with that. The sponsor is Aura. Let's take a quick listen to our sponsor. The reason that we're able to come to you with these shows is because we have an amazing sponsor. And YouTube does not like the photograph of John O'Keefe's arm, which I unfortunately learned more than once the hard way. Indulge me for a moment, get yourselves a drink or something while we listen to a quick word from our sponsor, Aura. Today's video is sponsored by Aura. And it's a really important time to be talking about them because hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of every American. Over 2.9 billion records were stolen from National Public Data, which offers personal information to employers, private investigators, staffing agencies, and others doing background checks. These stolen records include a person's full name, address, date of birth, social security number, and phone number, along with alternate names and birth date. And members of this hacker group have reportedly released this information on the dark web for free. I don't know if you've ever had your identity stolen, but I've had clients who've had their identity stolen. And not only is it a major hassle, but oftentimes before you find out, it's too late. The damage can take years to undo, and it's a hassle that you definitely do not want to deal with. So if you haven't been taking precautions before with your personal information online, this should be a huge wake-up call. You've never been more vulnerable online than you are right now. But I'm not too worried about it because I use Aura. Aura alerts me if they find my phone number, my email, my social security number, or any other personal information on the dark web. They're going to let me know fast if anyone tries to use this information to access my credit or bank accounts. They give me up to $5 million in identity theft insurance should the worst case scenario happen. They also provide a bunch of other features to keep you safe online, all inside one app. And you can go to my link at www.aura.com/MelanieLittle to try it for free for 14 days. That'll be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal information or data has been exposed. I highly recommend you do this right now because not only is national public data not going to do anything to help you, they probably aren't even going to face any repercussions for this breach. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches. And if you don't want to either, you want to go to my link, www.aura.com/MelanieLittle to try 2 weeks for free. You can thank me later. You can thank me later. In fact, a recent viewer sent me an email and said, thank you so much for Aura. They saved my credit. So there's that. All right, let us get back to the topic at hand, which is, and I forgot that during her voir dire, she did specify which marks came from which part of the dog's body, whether it be teeth or claw marks, because that is part of the next document that we're going to look at with regard to what the Commonwealth thinks that the defense should have to turn over with specificity. So it's going to be interesting, considering that she does have an answer for all of that. I'm going to move this out of the way now since we've had the sponsor ad, and now we can go back to Dr. Russell talking about these injuries.
It appears that there's an arch pattern here. So
In a dog attack or in an animal attack, in your experience, you can take this one down. Let's cover the ground on the 3 exhibits that we've already marked. Can we take a look at exhibit 1? Is this just a may I publish, Your Honor? Yes, I apologize. Is this just a close-up of the same injuries?
yes,
And do these appear to be consistent with what you just testified to in terms of either teeth or claw marks, especially as it relates to the area closest to the elbow?
yes.
And then
I mean, do you call these minor injuries? Didn't he say something like these are minor injuries? Okay. If that's minor, I'd like to see what a major dog attack. Oh, I would not like to see what a major dog attack looks like, but these are minor, Mr. Brennan? Okay.
looking at exhibit 3. May I publish?
Yes.
Is this a close-up view of the area closer to the wrist that indicated those parallel, you used the word striations?
Yes,
All right, and these appear to be taken, attended to the autopsy as opposed to the other photograph, exhibit 2, that was taken in the hospital. Is that right?
that is correct.
All right. And would the time difference account for the slight change in the nature of the wound?
It could,
Photograph of the wound, I guess?
it could, or a different technique, yes.
Okay. Let me take this down. Did you take into consideration the lack, in coming to your opinion and conclusion, the lack of other injuries, for instance, fractures, broken bones, or deep bruising, soft tissue injuries?
Oh, yes.
How did that play into your opinion?
Well, so of course I considered, what else could have caused these wounds, before coming to my conclusion. And so I wanted to rule out other things. And there were no significant major bodily injuries that, outside the head. There was nothing, there were no fractures of the long bones, the chest, the pelvis, the arms. So yeah, so having seen.
Right. Injuries that you would typically see in a pedestrian versus car motor vehicle accident, which she also has extensive experience in treating patients who are the victims of such things.
Hundreds and hundreds of car accident victims and people hit by cars. I ruled that out very quickly.
Okay.
Yes.
And in terms of,
Good. You've been on notice of this. You've been on notice of this. Oh, if looks could kill, they probably will, with Games Without Frontiers, War Without Fear. I don't know. Sometimes I sing the wrong words. It's Peter Gabriel. And if looks could kill, they probably will. And there's somebody staring down Karen, somebody you may know. Mr. Paul O'Keefe, if looks could kill, they probably will. He's not happy about this testimony. And now, well, Your Honor, Commonwealth has been on notice that Dr. Russell was of this opinion all the way back in June of 2024. It's not a surprise they cannot claim shock and horror. Based on her experience, Your Honor, I think she should also be able to testify or opine as to the fact that the injuries sustained by Officer John O'Keefe were not caused by a car accident. No shock or surprise here. She's qualified in that area as well. She's double, triple qualified in all kinds of things. This woman is like the Renaissance woman. I admire her greatly. You've been on notice. There's no surprise now. She already said this. Although the judge did not allow her to talk about it in the first trial, like the judge has said, this is a whole new trial now, isn't it, Ms. Little? This is a whole new trial. So, all new rulings and stuff and things. This is very helpful for the defense. I'm glad they made this motion. I'm really glad. Because now it's all going to come up next Thursday. Should. I mean, if it was my case, that's what I'd be arguing. Everyone thank Hank Brennan for bringing this motion.
the injuries that you did see, especially as they're attendant to the arm, based on everything that we've discussed today, is it your opinion, based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that those injuries are consistent with an animal attack as opposed to a motor vehicular pedestrian incident?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Thanks,
Good morning,
Robin.
ma'am.
Good morning.
Let me take you back to, you were talking about some police training that you had received when you were in the academy or while you were working with the police department here in Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of training or what did that training consist of?
Well, I attended and graduated from the Standard Police Academy at that time. And then I took additional courses that were offered from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council. And these were taught generally by experts.
No, I don't want to mute him because I think maybe he might be helpful to us here, because maybe not only will she be an expert in pedestrian versus motor vehicle accidents and the injuries caused therefrom, in addition to dog attack injuries and the injuries caused therefrom, she may also be an expert in police procedure. So, I mean, let's hear what he's got to say, because I forgot about this part of the voir dire.
In their fields, and they were on a variety of subjects that are listed in, in my CV, included, the hit and run accident investigation, forensic.
There just for a minute, ma'am. Doctor, in reference to your training as it pertains to hit and run accidents, what did that training consist of?
Oh, well, mechanisms of how accidents occur, mechanisms of how to determine, what vehicle was involved in an accident. There, I don't, it was a long time ago, but yeah. So determining if people were struck by vehicles, what vehicle was involved, or if there was auto versus auto accident, what vehicles were involved.
And I don't mean to belittle this training whatsoever, but is it fair to say that that was relatively rudimentary training that you received in the academy?
Not as
Probably,
rudimentary
I would
as,
not, yes.
not
okay,
as rudimentary as troop a pole.
Probably, if,
You don't have any training in crash reconstruction or anything like that, correct?
that is correct.
And am I correct in you indicated that you're board certified in emergency medicine, is that right?
That's correct.
And so you're not board certified in forensic pathology or anatomical pathology or any
She is.
kind of pathology?
That's correct.
And
Oh, she did her
the
residency.
last time that you worked as a coroner, when was that?
Last time was in 1995 when I was doing autopsies for the coroner's office. I have since, though, consulted on some cases from the LA coroner's office.
What, about 30 years ago? Is that about right?
For autopsy, yes.
Dr. Bodden, when's the last time you worked in a coroner's office? Could you imagine? What does that have to do with the price of tea in Boston Harbor? I mean, really? Okay. The lady, she's still working. She's not even retired.
Now, have you ever testified in a case in which either Mr. Jackson or Attorney Little were counsel?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And
Ooh, that
when
did
was
sound
it that
hard.
you first were contacted in reference to this case?
The first contact was May 15th.
May 15th of what year?
May 17th, excuse me, of this year, 2024. Yes.
And you went through a list of things that you were provided and you reviewed, and you mentioned hospital photos, correct?
Yes.
Autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes.
An autopsy report, is that correct?
Yes.
Grand jury testimony from the medical examiner, is that correct?
Yes.
A neuropathology report, is that correct?
Yes.
Toxicology report, is that correct?
Yes.
Then I think you also remembered some photos of some clothing items, is that correct as well?
Yes, a shirt. And
Anything else?
yeah, hospital ER record.
Hospital ER records?
Yeah, yes.
Anything else that you can think of?
Look at Tara Boston coming in with a hunch. Thank you, sweetheart.
No,
Did
Thank
you
you,
ask
me,
for
thank
anything
you.
else to review?
no.
Were you told of any other material that was available for your review that you weren't then given?
Well, I requested that that I focus in on the wounds, so I didn't ask for a lot of material in this case.
But fair to say that you were looking for anything and everything, material to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Please say that again.
Sure. Fair to say that you would want to look at anything and everything that was related to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Yes.
And so, did you make any specific requests as to what material you were provided, or were you just handed some material or forwarded some material and you looked at what you were given?
No, I requested that I have the autopsy photographs, the ER records, the ER photographs. I requested those.
Now, you mentioned some articles that you had written that were published back in 1996 and 1997 related to dog bites. Is that right?
Yes.
Are those publicly available articles?
Yes.
And
He's like, but I couldn't find him in my
in those
Google
articles
search.
that you wrote, you were talking about law
I couldn't find him in my Google search because Celebrate doesn't work.
enforcement bites, correct?
Yes.
So law enforcement canine bites typically involve what people call sort of a bite and hold technique. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So is there a difference between, through your experience and the hundreds of dog bites that you've seen, is there a difference between what you would observe from a dog bite from a law enforcement canine versus just your domesticated dog?
Well, yes. Now, the study, one of those studies was over 700 dog bite wounds, and there were two techniques used at that time: bite and hold, and later on, bark and hold, or bark and alert, or something of that nature. So there are different techniques, but yes, to specifically answer that question, which was, are they generally different from regular domestic dog bites? Yes.
Now, did you write a report in regard to your opinion that you testified to here today?
No,
Why not?
I don't think there was much time. And I didn't know if I was going to be actually testifying.
Uh-huh.
How long would it take you to write a report?
I wasn't asked to write a report, excuse me.
Were you asked specifically not to write a report?
No,
Like, yeah, I reviewed the
Now, at any
materials. I
point-
spoke to them on the phone. We had a conversation. Here's what I told them, what I thought. That she's going to bill them more and like write an 85-page report like we saw in the Carly Gregg sentencing. And take up all the hours and hours and hours and hours that it would take her to write a report. She's experienced enough that she can just say, here's what I think. Here's what I'll testify to. Here's my opinion. I mean, is he insinuating that because her only peer-reviewed papers were on canine trained dogs, that she has no idea what's involved in a domestic dog bite? Like, is he really serious right now?
Time, did you ever look at anything related to Mr. O'Keefe's head injury?
oh, yes,
Oh,
So you
good.
reviewed reports in relation to that, correct?
yes.
Do you have any opinions as it pertains to that?
I would rather defer to the pathologist and neuropathologist on that.
That wasn't her focus. But now that you've asked the question, maybe that will be your focus next time. Thanks. What else you got, Lollipop?
So who contacted you about this case?
I contacted a district attorney that I had worked with in the past. We were discussing a different case, a case that I autopsied in 1995. And I mentioned that I heard that there was a case in Massachusetts that might have been being handled by one of his colleagues, his former colleagues, and that there was an issue of whether something was a dog bite, and that I might be able to help in that case to clarify.
There's nothing wrong with
And
that, by the
so
way.
when you were provided this material, what is it that you were specifically asked to do?
To look at the wounds and the reports and the materials that were sent to me and render an opinion.
And so before you had even been provided any material, before you had even looked at anything, you had already heard information related to there being a dog bite involved in this case, correct?
I had heard that there was a controversy,
Ah,
that there's some certain wounds could have been a dog bite versus perhaps inflicted by a motor vehicle. That's what I had heard.
or maybe even a taillight explosion. If anybody has that tweet at the ready, I think it was a Coffindorfer tweet where she reposted someone else's like photo of the taillight, and she says that the taillight exploded, and she's got like the little pieces, like little shards of taillight that look like dog teeth. Can you please email it to me because so I can show the class? Fanbase at mlittlelaw.com. I need that tweet. We need a laugh today. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, thanks. Fanbase at mlittlelaw.com.
So what I'm really trying to get at, Doctor, is sort of the timeline. Okay, so you hear about this, when was that?
Who cares?
Sometime just before May 17th.
So sometime just prior to that, you hear about some controversy in a case in Massachusetts involving a dog bite. On May 17th, you get reached out to by who specifically?
His name is John Lewin. He's an attorney in the LA District Attorney's Office.
And then who did you talk to after that?
I reached out to him. I said I might be able to clarify. And then he reached out to Mr. Jackson, I believe, and then Mr. Jackson contacted me.
And not asking specifically anything you spoke about, but at some point, the discussion came specifically to dog bites, correct?
He sent me the materials. He asked me my opinion.
Mentioned the materials, asked you your opinion. When did you provide that opinion?
Probably the next day. Yes, I know it was the next day.
So the very next day on May 18th, you provided an opinion?
Yes.
And was that opinion provided in a written fashion, orally? How was that provided?
Orally.
So you reached out or to someone shortly before May 17th, spoke to Mr. Jackson on the 17th, received all the material, and then had an opinion by May 18th,
Yes.
but you didn't write any of that down.
No.
That's not
Now,
unusual,
beyond the
Mr. Lally.
materials that you were provided, what else were you told about the case?
I was told that the victim was a police officer. The decedent is a police officer. I was told that the defendant had been charged, and I was told that that there was a controversy about whether or not these injuries had been caused by a motor vehicle. And I was also told, and I read in the medical record, that the decedent was found outdoors, I believe in the snow, and hypothermic.
Now, in regard to what you reviewed, you didn't review any investigative reports, is that correct?
That is correct.
You didn't review any witness statements, is that correct?
That's correct.
What investigative reports, Mr. Lally? Because here's the thing. Apparently, they call it a crash report in Massachusetts. I did some research the other day. Crash report. In all crash reports, especially a fatality, for the love of the traveling Mary, law enforcement is required to fill out a motor vehicle crash report, file it with the RMV. Guess what was never done in this case? Oh, a crash report. Where is it? It doesn't exist. It never even just revealed itself because there isn't one, despite the fact that Proctor had decided that within 16 hours, this was a motor vehicle homicide. And in fact, they seized Karen Reed's car, AKA the murder weapon, on the same day. And yet no one in law enforcement ever completed a crash report. If I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. Please show it to me. Where's the crash report? Anyone? So Mr. Lally, no, she couldn't see the crash report from the motor vehicle accident because there isn't one. Would you like her to review Jennifer McCabe's 3 statements? Is that something that you think would be relevant for her to review? Because there is no motor vehicle crash report. What reports would you like her to look at? The lack of the evidence log indicating where and when those taillight pieces were found and who was present at the scene. I mean, literally, like, what reports would you suggest this witness be provided to other than medical records and photographs and autopsy reports? 100%. That will be brought up during the civil suit. 100%. I've been saying all along, how are they going to succeed in a car accident wrongful death case when there is no crash report? I'm screaming into a closet. So, there's that. If you're just tuning in, we are covering the Commonwealth's motion to exclude Dr. Marie Russell as an expert witness in the re-persecution of Karen Reed. And so we are going back to look at her qualifications in the first voir dire hearing or Daubert hearing that they had during the first trial, to see whether or not, in my opinion and your opinion, Dr. Marie Russell is qualified to testify with regard to the dog bite injuries, what she believes to be dog bite injuries and not exploding taillight injuries on the arm of Officer John O'Keefe.
You didn't review any lab reports as far as from the forensic lab or anything like that?
I reviewed the toxicology report.
Beyond that, any other?
If it was part of the autopsy report, I reviewed it.
You reviewed everything attended to the medical examiner's file, is that correct?
Yes.
Nothing from the lab beyond that?
Like what?
I don't believe I did.
Like what? What? John O'Keefe's blood alcohol content, which, by the way, was something like 0.28. How would that have helped her? What other toxicology reports are you talking about? If he wasn't hit by a car, it doesn't matter. Are you talking about Karen's BAC, which, by the way, they didn't even take properly?
Now, this first instance, when you say you heard about it, how did you hear about it?
Well, I believe it was via a headline that I received in my email from the
Here we go.
Boston
The
Globe.
Boston Globe.
Headline.
Snap.
You know, it was some kind of a, you know, there was some kind of interesting case, and I got it as an email, and I looked into it.
And when was that?
Well, that was that week in May, that, you know, just a few days before May 17th.
You subscribed to the Boston Globe online?
I did at that time. I have not renewed it.
How long had you been a subscriber to the Boston Globe?
Big smoking gun. Here it is. She
I'm gonna
lied
allow
about her
it.
subscription to the Boston Globe. I'll allow it.
Probably a year or 6 months, 6 months to a year.
There was never any headlines or anything else that you saw about this prior to that week just before May 17th?
Not that I paid attention to.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Nothing further.
All right, so since this is a voir dire, I get to ask questions, doctor?
Oh,
So
yes.
I
okay.
just have a couple of questions for you. I don't think I really
I
heard
disagree.
you. So could you tell me again what
J2K1980
your
says, unfortunately, the fact that this doctor has been retired for the past 20 years is really hurting her credibility. They need another doctor who's not retired. They also need a dog trainer with bite experience. She still consults. She still works. Dr. Bodden is no longer a medical examiner. He doesn't work in a medical examiner's office. It doesn't make him any less of an expert. So respectfully, I disagree with your opinion. I think that she is, she wrote papers on dog bites. Her age gives her even more experience than somebody like, Ian Whiffen. And with regard to a dog trainer with bite experience, the Commonwealth is suggesting that because she's not qualified in veterinary medicine, she shouldn't be allowed to opine. But we did talk about that also, is that, yeah, sure, if the Commonwealth wants to bring in a dog bite trainer with bite experience, yeah, but that's a different issue. Her opinion is a medical opinion. And who knows if this judge would even allow the dog trainer expert in. I don't know if she would. We'll see, because the Commonwealth wants to bring in one of those experts as well. But the science and technology of dog bites has not changed in the past, however, 20 years or whatever. It's a dog bite's a dog bite's a dog bite. There's no new methodology or science with regard to dog bite injuries. And listen, if the Commonwealth could have come up with an expert to oppose her, they would have already exchanged it. Did they exchange it? I don't think so. I mean, they might have. Maybe I missed it. But I don't think that it affects her credibility at all. I think it makes her even more experienced. The woman went to MIT. She did 2 residencies. She worked in the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office. She was like chief of everything. She was a professor. She's still learning. She's still learning. I mean, she went to college in 1972. Her first year at MIT, I think she said, was 1972. If it means she was born in like 1955. Like, she's young. I think she's younger than we think she is. Right? If she went to MIT when she was like 17, 18, she would be born in like 1954. Somewhere around there. So, she's not that old.
opinion is, and to what degree you hold that opinion?
Yes.
Oh, this is
These
when she didn't
injuries
say
in
the
the
magic
arm
words.
My opinion is that they are the result of animal bites or scratches.
And do you know what kind of animal?
Oh, yes, most likely dog, large dog. And I'm very reasonable, very sure to, what's the word I want? Medical
Reasonable
certainty.
degree of medical certainty.
Very
All right,
high
so
degree-
this
high degree of medical certainty.
reasonable degree of medical certainty.
Yes. definitely.
Okay.
Are you
and another
shaming her,
question, so
Judge? Are
I
you
received
shaming her because she
information that-
doesn't know the magic words? I mean, did you see the look that she just gave her? Hold on a second. Because I don't know. I tend to sometimes overreact. You can tell me if you think that I'm overreacting. Let's full screen it a little bit more. It looks, she's kind of shaming her. It's a reasonable degree of medical certainty. Right. You know why? Because Dr. Marie Russell's not a hired gun. She's not, I don't even think she charged. I think she did this pro bono. Oh, there's the athletic cup. Madam Court reporter talking into the athletic cup. She's not a hired gun. She didn't say the magic words. Oops.
What's the word I want? Medical certainty, very
All right,
high,
so
high degree of medical certainty.
reasonable degree of medical certainty.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and another question. So I received information that you also viewed all reports associated with Chloe, a dog's prior bite history. Did you review those?
No, I don't recall ever seeing anything like that.
That you also reviewed the UC Davis DNA testing results submission forms?
No, I don't recall seeing them.
Okay, any follow-up, any questions based on my questions?
Not for the Commonwealth, no.
But here's the thing. This time she will be provided with the prior bite history. And this time, first of all, I don't think that would change her opinion either way. To look at an arm and say, these are dog bites, would having the dog's prior bite history change her opinion about whether or not they were dog bites? I don't think so. Would it strengthen her opinion to know that in 2018, Chloe had gone after another woman and the woman's friend and a dog and severe injuries, and then got the call like, what do we need to make this go away? Isn't that what happened? Wasn't she called by Kevin Albert? Tell me if I'm wrong, because I may be conflating all the weirdness in this case. But wasn't that woman from the Vanity Fair article called by Kevin Albert or someone on his behalf from Canton PD like, what do we need to do to make this go away with the dog bite situation in 2018? And then there was another incident after this in which Chloe attacked another dog, and that was the reason that Nicole said that they rehomed the dog. Thank you, Team Brittany. Okay, and so then nobody has any more questions. And again, the dog DNA on the shirt, would that have changed her opinion about whether or not it was dog bites? I don't think so. So again, then, they send her off. Hold on.
Right, you are all set, doctor. I don't know yet whether.
I don't know yet whether or not you can testify.
Additional material that was.
And then here's the arguments.
Forward. All right.
I don't know that the bite patterns would make a difference because nobody knows where Chloe is.
So I would like to hear argument on this witness before we hear the other witnesses.
The crash daddies.
So, and Ms. Giannetti, I asked you the other day whether she reached out to you or you reached out to her, and you said there was an intermediary. But my concern was whether she came out of nowhere and reached out about this case. And that seems to sort of.
It wasn't Mr. Unnetti, it was me.
Okay. All right. So
does it matter? It doesn't matter.
So the question
it doesn't matter who reached out to her. It really doesn't matter who reached out to who. The fact that she reached out to him through an intermediary, kind of like those jurors did, by the way. And by the way, I think that the SJC closes their term by Friday. Today's Wednesday. So that the SJC is going to drop their decision on Friday. We'll cover it. Or else they're going to have to wait until their next session, which I believe is not until after the holidays in January. So unless there's a decision by Friday on the appeal, it's not going to be heard until or they won't go back and deliberate or whatever until next session. So there's that. It doesn't matter who reached out to who in this expert. The fact that she reached out to them is even more telling, which is even better for them. It's not like they had to go chase down some hired gun. She's not a hired gun.
I asked was answered pretty much by this witness, whether she saw something and decided she wanted to come forward. All right, it's the Commonwealth's motion. What are you asking me to do? Again, I found a violation of Rule 14. And there are two concerns here, the competency of the witness's testimony, how much she can testify to, whether she should testify at all. What is it you're asking me, Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, I'm asking that the witness be excluded from testifying at the trial for the
Oh, today's
violation of
Thursday. What did I say?
reports.
Today is Wednesday. Oh, look at that. I just gained a day. Okay, so today is Thursday. You're right. Chat, you're right. Today's Thursday. So tomorrow it should happen. Oops.
Specifically, I believe it's Rule 14A6. This is a witness, as the court picked up on, that
I gotta
reached
speed him
out,
up a little bit.
albeit through an intermediary, with reference to just sort of discovering or coming upon this case in several weeks into the trial. It is concerning given the fact that the witness represented that she had a subscription to the Globe Online, received word of this, and the first time that she had ever seen it or it grabbed her attention was in that first week of May when, as the court is well aware, there's been widespread media coverage, particularly through the Boston Globe, for years at this point. The limitations of the testimony, it's also concerning because the disclosure from counsel indicated, again, as the court had noted, I didn't want to get into too much as far as for purposes of this voir dire, but there was additional material that was indicated in the disclosure that the witness had reviewed, including the UC Davis related to the canine DNA or the lack thereof, as well as, forgive me, the dog bite history of that specific dog, which also, I would note for the court, includes photographs of what a dog bite from that specific dog looks like. And that specifically apparently was not provided to this witness, who's then
Well, it will
opining
be now.
on, inferably at least, that that dog was the cause of these particular injuries. However, was not shown specifically anything to do with that bite history as far as by way of reports or photographs. So that juxtaposed or coupled with the immensely
All right. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. She finally decides, okay, she's going to be allowed to testify about the dog bites, but not about the hit and run injuries. So maybe now that stuff can come in. And then she did testify. We don't need to look at her testimony again, but it was just interesting to go back and look at her qualifications. And for me to be able to say to you that, in my opinion, she is highly qualified as an expert. She is quite honestly one of the most highly qualified experts that I've ever seen in her field. There are not a lot of dog bite experts out there with regard to injury analysis and dog bites, and she's the one. She is the one. Let's take a look at this. Thank you so much to who sent this to me. To Chris, who sent this to me. Let's take a look. This is what the other side wants you to think caused the as such injuries to the arm. Here it is. I mean, believe it. It's real. This is what they think. This is Jennifer Coffendorfer's tweet from however long ago this was. Let me just see if I can somehow make this bigger for you. When was this? Okay. First of all, explain to me why this woman hate tweets about Karen Reed at least 10 to 15 times a day. I have no idea why. But it's crazy. So this was from October 6th of 2024. And she says, why are you doing this? The teeth that caused the marks on John O'Keefe's arm are pictured below. Karen, and she hashtags everything, so it'll come up in everyone's search. Hashtag Karen Reed is accused of murdering Boston police officer O'Keefe. Photo credit at Tuesday Gazette. Here, my friends, are the pictures of the taillight, which, by the way, were not examined until February 9th of 2023, more than 1 year after the murder of Officer John O'Keefe. And they want you to believe that this taillight shattered into all of these teeth-like pieces. And somehow, in the pirouette of the side swipe and the shattering of the taillight by who knows what part of his body, these teeth-shaped taillight pieces at the same time exploded and then clawed his arm in all of these different places, all at the same time. Are you ducking serious with that? Anyone? Bueller? No words. Hmm. Yes. Hmm. Those pieces would have to have been pointing straight out on the SUV to cut it all at once. Yes. Yes. No, no. Yes. This is what retired FBI agent Jennifer Koffendorfer, who's on all of the shows, says that these are the teeth that caused the marks on hashtag John O'Keefe's arm. And at least she said in this one, Karen Reed is accused of murdering Boston police officer O'Keefe. She usually says that Karen Reed is a murderer. In perfect formation, pieces of blood on them or DNA. No, no, they don't. No, of course they don't. Were there any taillight fragments found in Officer John O'Keefe's arms? No. No, they weren't. But, the spin is real. I mean, right, not one piece of taillight cut his shirt, right, because those are only puncture marks. Remember the pirouette? Yep. Come on. Okay. All right. Go on with your bad self. Let's take a look at what the Commonwealth is asking for with regard to Dr. Russell, because there is one more document on that. But before we do that, let's go to the chat for a moment and thank Tara Brown for a $99, $100 super chat. Thanking me and my super mods. Great chat. Dr. Russell's beyond qualified for the Karen Reed case. I'm an RN in one of the downtown Boston hospitals for 30 years. Bet you've seen a lot of dog bites, Tara. She's amazing. Her knowledge and education. Dr. Russell, justice for John O'Keefe, for Karen Reed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tara, for being such an amazing, generous contributor to this channel always. Lois Lane is thanking us for hanging around with her. Thank you, Lois, for the 20. Over from the Glare crew. Love Team Brittany. She's a class act. And Melanie, you rock. Did he go live this morning? I didn't know he was going. This is a little early for him, no? Thank you, Grandmaster Sid Sophos. Thank you so much for your super chat. And Tracy says maybe she's not qualified because her CV doesn't say and stuff. Yes, I was a medical examiner and stuff. I have I did 2 different residencies and stuff. Gigadog Bits. Thanks for the 5. Yes, she's absurdly overqualified in every field, but does she know the difference of megabytes and gigabytes? Exactly. Cuts me out 420 coming in, gifting 5 memberships. Thank you so much to all the recipients. Welcome. And Midnight Mike gifted a membership. Thank you, Mike. And Joseph Kane gifted a membership. So welcome to all the new members who were randomly selected by YouTube to receive those memberships. You're going to like it here, I think. Robin, thank you for your super sticker. And Yellow Cottage Cheese says she's no expert. The crime scene doesn't talk to her. Yep. That's right, David. Thanks for your 5. So where are we putting up her statue? Also, David, thank you for sticking up for me the other day in the Lawyer chat. I was like, that was insane. There was he did a premiere on something. I forget. Ashley Benefield, I think. And so I wanted to watch it because I value his opinion. I respect Peter's opinion. I'm curious because he practices in Florida what his opinions were on Ashley Benefield's sentencing. And I'm in the chat. I'm not even in the chat. I'm just watching it on my computer while I'm doing 12 other things. And it was a premiere, so it wasn't live, but the chat was open and people were chatting. And all of a sudden people start trash talking me in his chat. And I'm like, what? So I had, I couldn't control myself. I had to get in there and start saying things. And David, thank you so much for coming in and coming to my defense. I appreciate you so much, my knight in shining yellow cottage cheese. You're great. Thank you for that. Gigadog Bits. So where are we putting up her statue, or should there be more than one? Dr. Russell's an absolute legend. Thank you. Thank you. I think we should put her statue right next to the one that we're going to make of Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting over at that park on the bench. Maybe she could sit next to him on the bench. Desert Quill, thanks for the 5. She's beyond qualified, but Hank is using age discrimination to try to dismiss the amazing Dr. Russell. Ageism is real. Thank you, Desert Quill. Oh yeah, they're mocking my age on all over the cesspool of Twitter. I'm like a 100-year-old, vampire or something, according to those Twidiots. But thank you to all you people who, I'm not on Twitter, as you know, but for those of you who do choose to go over there and defend me, God bless you. Camille, thanks for the 20. Prosecution just messed up big time. This admirable woman has more education and experience than any other in the room. Prosecution is going to look like a student sitting in the corner with a dunce hat. Mr. Brennan, would you like your cap? AJ's Beard, another great username, says Brian Albert was seen meeting with Can Animal Control Officer at a nearby municipal airport in the middle of nowhere. Coincidence? Things that make you go, I don't know. I mean, that's maybe they're buddies. Maybe they're having coffee. I don't know. Jansia, thanks for the super chat. Maybe defense didn't object so they can argue her testimony shouldn't be limited this time. You're on to something, girl. You're on to something. You guys are wicked smart. Wicked smart, Kylie. I think I thanked you for this earlier. One Law, 214. Watch some shorts done by Belgian Malinois. Handlers, yes, we did. We did do that. We did. I had Garrett Wing as a guest on my show after the first time that Jennifer Coffendorfer tried to shame me on court TV. And so I was like, oh, and Team Brittany was like, hey, check this guy out. He has his YouTube channel. He's got like 2 million subs. And this is what he does. He trains dogs to bite. Check him out. So I was like, wow, I got to see this. So I called him. I emailed him. I got him on the show. There are 2 shows. There's a full length show on that. And then I cut it down to a more digestible size for some people. So I did do an extensive show with him. He's an amazing guy. It was my opinion when I first interviewed him that someone with his credentials probably would not be allowed in the court of Judge Beverly Canone to opine as to the cause of these injuries to John O'Keefe because he was not a medical expert. However, since the Commonwealth now wants to bring in their own dog trainer / handler / dog bite expert, I think that someone such as like that would be fair game now. So funny how things have changed. Funny the way it is if you think about it. One Law says the dogs will do anything for its protectee. They're gentle as a lamb and vicious as a wolf. Especially in protection of their owners, right? Daniel Penny jury's having a struggle. Experts say it looks to be a hung jury. Yeah, these experts, come on, Satch Grand, these experts, no shade to you at all. It's too early for a hung jury in Daniel Penny. They really haven't been out that long. They asked for a read back yesterday. I just want to check with the person that I'm following on this, who seems to be like the best person to follow because he's got the live tweeting. They asked for a read back yesterday of the cross-examination of the medical examiner, which in my opinion is very, very good for the defense, because that cross-examination was like, she was like, yeah, I really can't tell, the pressure that Daniel Penny was putting on this guy, and how much pressure and whether it was consistent pressure. And also I can't say how much K2 was in this guy's system because the toxicology testing that we have cannot opine as to the amount of K2 that was in his system. And she said she finalized her autopsy report before the toxicology reports even came back. So there's all of that. I don't know why I can't find this guy right now. Here he is, Inner City Press. Let's see what he's got to say. Okay, so an hour ago, this is on Daniel Penny for those of you following it with me. They're still reading back the testimony of Dr. Harris, the medical examiner. If you'd like to follow someone great on Twitter, he's called Inner City Press, and they're doing a dramatic reading right now of the testimony of Dr. Harris. They've got the court reporter on the stand, and they have someone else reading on the other side. Let me just see if there's anything more recent than that. And 30 minutes ago, they went back to retire and continued their deliberations. And so maybe we'll see a verdict today. If we do, I'm going to go live with it unless it's during my kid's doctor's appointment this afternoon. So there's that. I do not think that this jury is going to be hung. I think, listen, New York allows readbacks. Massachusetts does not. I think readbacks are really important. And Mark Betterow and I, when we found out Massachusetts didn't allow readbacks, we were like, what? What do you mean? The jurors are supposed to rely on their notes? I can't even rely on my own notes. Sometimes I can't even read my own handwriting. And now they're going to go back there in Karen Reed's case and argue about their notes and who wrote down what properly. Like, that's wild to me. And Mark, we couldn't believe it. So he says the prosecution's dog expert is a dog behavioral expert who basically blames the humans and training. He offers courses because, of course, he has, and has only worked a few cases for fatal dog attacks. Yes, we showed a clip of an interview that we found of his. I forget his name, but yeah, that refreshes my recollection. Charlie Lynn, thank you for gifting a membership. Catherine still can't believe they're going to trial. Well, she still hasn't agreed to adjourn it until April Fool's Day. And Fairy Raven says vampires are human too and deserve looking out for. Thank you, Fairy. Appreciate you. All right, so here's what the Commonwealth expects from the defense. Here's what they want the Commonwealth to provide pursuant to Rule 14, which is the automatic disclosure rule for Dr. Marie Russell. Commonwealth requests the defendant produce the following materials by December 10th. 1, a complete statement of all opinions to be expressed and the basis and reasons for each opinion, including for each wound on John O'Keefe's arm, articulate A, the species of animal that Dr. Russell believes caused each wound. Well, that's easy. K9. B, whether the mechanism for each wound is by bite or scratch or some other means. Well, I thought that was overly broad and too specific, but we just saw her do that. So we know she can do that. C, identify any wounds that Dr. Russell is not certain or cannot determine the cause of injury. 2, the scientific basis for each opinion offered for each wound, including books, studies, journals, or treatises relied upon to form each opinion. How about my experience? How about my 40 years experience as a doctor / medical examiner / Really? Do you think that this woman is relying on a book, a journal, or a treatise to form her opinion? Or just her basic years and years and years and years and years of experience? 3, identify the data and or other information considered by the witness in forming her opinions. I'm sorry, did they is this like a scratch and sniff that they took from like a forensic expert or like a this is not a medical expert type request, but okay. For all written reports authored by Dr. Marie Russell relative to this case, maybe she wrote some since her last testimony. This is what the prosecution is asking for the defense to provide to them under Rule 14. All notes, reports, and materials relied upon for reviewing this specific case, including what additional materials have been received and reviewed since Dr. Russell testified at trial. 6, describe and produce any exhibits to be used as a summary of or support for Dr. Russell's opinions. I don't think they're going to have any exhibits, but if they do, PowerPoints are always good, as we learned from a recent trial that we watched together that had some, like in the closing, they had some amazing PowerPoints that I just thought were so great for the jury because everything was right up there on the screen, and I thought it really helped them. Jury instructions and the like. What trial was that? Chloe Driver? Can't recall. We're all blending together at this point. 7, provide any contracts, fee agreements, fees paid to date, and outstanding fees for all work done regarding this case, including case preparation, testimony, travel, and expenses. That's fair. 8, a list of all cases Dr. Marie Russell has encountered dog bites and or scratches, which form the basis for her anecdotal experience with dog or animal bites, scratches, or injuries resulting from any animal, or provide explanation of how Dr. Marie Russell quantified the number of previous dog bite cases she has treated that she testified ranged anywhere from 500 to 1,000 or more. Okay, I'm going to point out here that doctors also call their treatment of patients cases, right? I had a case in the ER today. I had a case. So is he asking for every patient that she ever treated who had a dog bite? Or is he asking for any cases, legal cases that she has testified in, which is completely acceptable? Oftentimes, I'm a civil litigator. So in civil litigation, we deal with many, many medical experts, doctors, expert witnesses, biomechanical engineers, auto experts, all kinds of experts. And typically you have to provide the other side with a list of all cases they've testified in, because that way you can go and get the transcript of their testimony in another case, and then you can try and impeach them with it. And they have to give a list of cases they've testified in. But is he seriously going to ask her to testify, to give him a list of every single patient with dog bite that she ever treated? That's insane, right? I thought he was asking about medical cases. It seems that he is asking about medical cases, but a lot of people don't know that doctors call their patients cases, right? So that's insane. That is an insane ask. Many of these medical records probably don't even exist anymore. She's been a doctor since this. I mean, she wrote her peer-reviewed articles in 96 and 97. When did she graduate from medical school? She graduated from UMass Medical School in 1987. Okay. That's insane. Overly broad and unduly burdensome. Or just do the math. I saw this many a year in my so many year career. I mean, that's just a ridiculous ask. Number 8. And then after number 8, he goes back to number 7. Oh, I didn't even notice this before. This is fun. Okay, so it goes, this is like Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9. This is what your $250 an hour gets you in Massachusetts, my friends. Your $75,000 contract gets you to go from number 8 back to number 7, which is a different item than the previous number 7, which was looking for contracts. So there's that. Going from 8 to 7, a list of all publications that Dr. Russell has authored that are not listed in her CV. Excellent. Because the ones, I think the only ones that she gave you were with regard to dog bites. How many other publications had she had? And she was actually very humble about that. She's like, well, some people would think that I was published a lot. Some people might not think. Imagine she comes up with a list of like 100 other articles that she's written, all about hit and run injuries and pedestrian accidents. Sometimes you better want what you wish for. And then again, we have another number 8 where it says Provie copy or list of all peer-reviewed journals. Provie. Another typo, another day. Yeah, I don't know. Is that even a word? Provie, Provie, that it wouldn't come up in spell check? Copy or list of all peer-reviewed journals and or articles that Dr. Russell authored or co-authored. Okay. So we're back to 7 and 8. 7, number 2, 8, number 2, and then 9. List of all cases in state and federal court where Dr. Russell has been deposed or testified in court relative to dog bites, dog attacks, or any animal bites, scratches, or attacks during her career, including any courts and case names where Dr. Russell has been recognized as a qualified, I should say, with the grammar, I just can't, as an expert witness relative to dog bite injuries. That's a fair ask. Commonwealth is entitled to discovery pursuant to Rule 14. A criminal defendant's constitutional right to call a witness on her behalf is not absolute, may be limited. Judge's discretion in the face of legitimate demands, blah, 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 blah. And so forth within 7 days to prepare so we can adequately prepare for the December 12th hearing regarding Dr. Russell's expert qualifications. XOXO, Hank Brennan, Waterboy, Adam Lally, and Laura McLaughlin. Oh yeah, list of all publications Super Bowl has authored. Oh, there are none. There are none. Yeah. So there's that. Yes. Susie says she was in an ER setting. Dr. Justin Rice barely remembers seeing Karen at Good Sam 2 years ago. Okay. I have another thing pulled up here that I thought we might look at briefly. And it's a little bit of testimony from Nicole Albert about Chloe. And so, we're here. Why not? Let's pull it up. Hold on. I should just trigger warn you because it's going to be Lally, but you guys remember. Here we go.
Now, in addition, let me ask you this. At this time in January of 2022, did your family have any pets?
I gotta put the captions on for this. Did your family have any pets?
Yes,
And how many pets did you have?
we had one. We had a dog,
What was the dog?
Chloe.
And what type of dog was it?
She was a German Shepherd mix.
How much did she weigh?
How long had you had the dog at that point?
About 6 years, I believe.
And
She
do you
has a
recall
list.
sort of when you got the dog, how you got the dog, or where you got the dog from?
We got the dog from a shelter in Texas.
And what type of, so shelter, or fair to say it's a rescue dog?
Yes,
And where did the dog typically go within the house?
it was when it was allowed anywhere in the house.
And
Wait, did she say was? Hold on. Hold on. Okay, now thank you, Mariko True. We got to go back now. She got a rescue dog from a shelter in Texas. She went all the way to Texas to get a dog. What connections do they have to Texas? Why would you go to Texas? Why would you go all the way to Texas to get a dog? I'm confused. Was and it. Okay, listen. Great. You guys are on it. You guys are so wicked smart. Wicked smart.
let me ask you this. At this time in January of 2022, did your family have any pets?
Yes,
And how many pets did you have?
we had one. We had a dog,
What was the dog?
Chloe.
And what type of dog was it?
She was a German Shepherd mix.
And
Was it?
how long had you had the dog at that point?
About 6 years, I believe.
And do you recall sort of when you got the dog, how you got the dog, or where you got the dog from?
We got the dog from a shelter in Texas.
And what type of, so shelter, or fair to say it's a rescue dog?
Yes,
And where did the dog typically go within the house?
it was when it was allowed anywhere in the house.
And as far as nighttime, would there be any sort of particular pattern of where the dog would sleep?
Yes, at nighttime when we went up to bed, it came up with us and it slept in our bedroom.
And
It-
at any point in time during the
It slept in our bedroom. It slept in our bedroom. Who has anybody here ever called their dog it? Distancing language, maybe? And if the dog slept in your bedroom and all the commotion that was going on outside, all the first responders in there, dog didn't bark. So many questions. When we went up to bed, the dog would come up. It would come up with us. Listen.
as far as nighttime, would there be any sort of particular pattern of where the dog would sleep?
Yes, at nighttime when we went up to bed, it came up with us and it slept in our bedroom.
It.
And at any point in time during the time from when you returned from the waterfall to your home, where was the dog at that point?
Well, the dog had been up in the room, and I believe my husband, when we first got in,
The dog.
brought her down to let her out to go to the bathroom.
Then she starts calling her, but the dog, like, doesn't refer to her as Chloe. So we got home, and then my husband let her out to go to the bathroom.
Got in, brought her down to let her out to go to the bathroom.
And when the dog went out to go to the bathroom when you lived at 34 Fairview Road, where would the dog go? How was that? Was it on a leash?
Well, she pretty much she knew the door where to go. So when she had to go, she would go to that door and she would just go out and run in the backyard and go and on her own.
So on her own, and someone would sort of stand at the back door?
Yes.
And the back door that we're talking about, what kind of door is that?
It's a regular door.
I mean, is it
Like-
a door that opens? Is it a sliding door?
Oh, yeah, no, just a regular door. And it had, I think, a storm door, behind it.
And the backyard area of your home at 34 Fairview, when you lived there in around January 2022, how was that enclosed at all?
It was fenced in.
So dogs couldn't get out if everything's closed up in the backyard.
Yes, as long as the gates were shut.
And as far as that particular evening, after you returned from the waterfall, you indicated your husband let the dog out. About how long a period of time was the dog outside?
I believe it was pretty quick. She went, did her business, and came back in. I think she might have walked around the kitchen for a minute or two, and then I think you just brought her back upstairs.
And to
I think you just brought her back upstairs. Let's not follow the captions. Try and just listen to this part. I mean, yeah, it does sound rehearsed. It does sound rehearsed and practiced, and she was very well prepped for this because the reason that you can tell that is because she starts answering the question before he's even done with the question. Like she knows what the question's going to be. I mean, a lot of people talk over each other in everyday conversations, and you have to constantly correct clients during depositions not to do that because the court reporter can only take down one person at a time. But she said, hold on.
She went, did her business, and came back in. I think she might have walked around the kitchen for a minute or two, and then I think you just brought her back upstairs.
You just brought her back upstairs, it sounds like.
to your knowledge, did Chloe the dog, did Chloe go outside at any other point?
Chloe the
over course
dog.
of that evening?
No.
Now,
She never went out the rest of that evening. The whole rest of the time she was inside.
at some point, obviously you've moved from 34 Fairview to North. Correct?
Hmm.
And when about was it in relation to this incident of January 29th, 2022 that you moved?
We moved in April of 2023.
And with any plans or discussions were there in reference to moving prior to January 29th?
Objection, Your Honor.
So not the specifics, but generally, not the conversation.
We had always planned to move, but it was in our plans that, kids were starting to get older. We were looking to possibly downsize. So at the end of 2021, my husband's brother had sold his house.
Objection.
No, I'm going to allow that.
My husband's brother had sold his house and got a good deal for it. It sold pretty quickly. The market was really good at that time. So we just started thinking, hey, the kids are getting older. A couple of them had already moved out. We weren't going to be able to stay in that house. It's like a 5-bedroom house. Once our kids were gone, my husband and I wouldn't have been able to maintain that.
But the kids weren't really gone, right? I just want to fast forward to the cross about Chloe, because she talks a lot about a lot of other stuff. But I want to specifically just get to the Chloe stuff today. And I don't remember, was she on for 2 days? Did she come back the next day?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Ms. Albert, you're aware that we actually sought records regarding Chloe and her bite.
Oh, okay, let's go back. Let's take it back.
Waiting outside the house for Colin when you arrived, correct?
No.
Oh, this is the
Waiting
Colin testimony. Hold
And
on.
Brian Albert, that all happened
He was standing. And when I walked in, I immediately saw him.
actually Steve got up
No,
today. Brian Jr. testified. I believe you stated that you saw Colin seated at the table with Brian Jr., correct?
when I testified when.
Earlier today.
I don't believe I said that.
Shortly after he got up.
No, I don't believe I said that.
You never said that he was initially seated with Brian Jr.
No, I'm pretty sure I said when I walked in, I immediately saw him.
So when you walked in the door, you're saying he was already leaving to go get his ride, correct?
He was standing and looked to me like he was getting ready for someone who was coming to pick him up.
Got it. And when you pulled up with Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, that all happened around the same time, correct?
Yes.
And you have never mentioned seeing any other vehicle waiting outside the house for Colin when you arrived, correct?
No.
You didn't observe another vehicle outside the house.
No, I'm not saying he said to me, my ride's almost here. I'm leaving.
Yeah, I think that Colin, somebody said Colin was a senior, but they also have a son, at least one son younger, because there was some incident in Canton, I don't know, a week ago or so. And he is now in high school, one of the younger sons, I believe, on the football team or something.
So I didn't see anything outside.
Oh, wait,
about
but the
his
Colin's not her son, so forget that. Never mind. The Colin is Chris and Julie's son. Never mind.
ride.
And it was cold outside that night.
Yeah.
So he sort of walked out the door before his ride arrived.
I don't know if he went and stood and waited by the door. I came in the house, and like I said, I immediately said hello to my son, his friends. I went and started doing my cleaning.
Her mouth is so dry. She's so nervous. She's like a horse whisper. Like she is not believing what she's saying. I mean, in my opinion. She started doing her cleaning right away. Cleaning.
And I didn't really pay attention, but I assume he left because I never saw him again.
So she's not
We're
lying.
sure
She
if he was
assumes.
sort of standing by the front door.
I'm not sure. I mean, he could have been standing there waiting. He said his ride was about to be there.
Okay. But you didn't see him leave.
I did not see him leave.
Yeah, the house was in the family for generations. Yeah, Brian grew up in that house. You're right.
You testified that your German Shepherd, Chloe, was also at the house when you arrived home on January 29th, correct?
Yes.
She's a large German Shepherd.
Yep. About 70 pounds.
She's not great with strangers.
That answers
I
that
wouldn't say that.
question. About 70 pounds. Those of you with large dogs, is 70 pounds a large dog? Would a 70-pound dog leave a mark if a 70-pound dog jumped on your lap or something like that? Just curious, because I've never had a big dog or really a dog. Since I had a little dog when I was a kid, but 70-pound dogs could a 70-pound dog knock a person over? I don't know. I mean, I was looking at TikTok and I saw some people posting like pictures of like their dog, like they're like some way smaller dogs, like jumping on their lap and causing like bruises to them and stuff. I don't know. You dog people might know more than I do.
You wouldn't say that it's kind of a
Hold on. You wouldn't say she's great with strangers. Hold on, ready?
large German Shepherd.
Yep. About 70 pounds.
She's not great with strangers.
I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that it's kind of a poorly worded question. Would you say that she's good with strangers?
I'd say she's fine with strangers.
Oh, except for the women
Yeah.
that she bit in 2018 that nobody knew about. But Vanity Fair found them. Okay.
She's definitely not good with other animals, is she?
No, she did not like other dogs.
Chloe actually has a well-documented bite history, doesn't she?
Objection.
Does she?
With dogs. A couple dogs, yes.
Ms. Albert, she also has a bite history with humans, doesn't she?
Objection.
Why is that objectionable?
Ask that differently.
Ms.
Why?
Albert,
It's
Chloe has
cross-examination.
injured-
It's cross-exam. Why does she have to ask that differently? That's a perfectly acceptable question. She also has a bite history with humans, doesn't she? I'm sorry. What's wrong with that question, Your Honor? She's just trying to throw Liza off here, but she does. She handles it well. Let's listen to that again.
Bite history with humans, doesn't she?
Objection.
Ask that differently.
Ms. Albert, Chloe has injured other humans, hasn't she?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
In one incident in May of 22, when she got out and was fighting with another dog, the woman whose dog it was tried to break up the two dogs. And while she was trying to break up the two dogs, she got injured.
You're
Liar.
actually
Liar. What about 2018? What about 2018 when they called up and said, yeah, is there anything we could do to get rid of this? Wait.
2 individuals who were injured in that incident, correct?
Well, there was 2 women, but I believe just one woman, from what I understand, had an injury from Chloe. The other one may have fallen or something, but I'm not sure 100%.
There were 2 women who were actually taken to the hospital after that incident, correct?
Yes, a neighbor had called the police or called an ambulance just to make sure they were okay.
And you mentioned that Chloe had actually escaped from the backyard
Mm-hmm.
in that incident.
Yes,
And that happens from time to time at your house, correct?
it had happened a few times, yes.
And Mr. Albert let Chloe out when he arrived that night, correct?
Yep.
So did the 2018 bite history, was it taken care of? Did somebody take care of it so it was never reported to animal control? So that's why animal control had no records of it? And did this witness blatantly perjure herself on the stand if there was the bite incident from 2018? I mean, somebody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we read the Vanity Fair article, right? Huh. Yeah, Inner City Press is great. Huh.
Ms. Albert, you don't have Chloe anymore, do you?
Nope.
In May of 2022, 4 months after Mr. O'Keefe's death, you got rid of your family dog of 6 years.
Objection.
Oh, is that true? Is that when you got rid of your dog?
I did not get rid of my dog. I rehomed my dog.
Oh, semantics.
Your dog is no longer in the Canton area, correct?
No, but I know where she is. She's in Vermont. And that previous testimony, that information has all been given. So if she was ever needed for anything, we know where she is.
That
Wow. You know who knew she was in Vermont all the way back in like January before this trial ever happened? Jennifer Coffenhofer. Because I think during the one of the two times that I was on court TV with her, she said, they know where the dog's in Vermont. Well, this witness just told you that she previously testified about that. And you may recall that she previously testified in front of, I don't know how many grand juries, but definitely the federal grand jury. And I don't know if she testified in front of the state grand jury. However, how did Jennifer Coffenhofer know what she testified about during any of the grand juries unless she gets her information directly from them? That is interesting. She had also tweeted about it. The defense didn't know this until this day at trial. First time ever that it was disclosed that they knew where Chloe was. We brought this up during the trial. We talked about it. So listen to this again.
your dog is no longer in the Canton area, correct?
No, but I know where she is. She's in Vermont. And that previous testimony, that
head would have
information has all
exploded.
been given. So if she was ever needed for anything,
Here's the thing. The defense doesn't get a copy of your previous testimony from the grand jury because the grand jury proceedings are secret. So the defense wouldn't get your testimony from the grand jury. Okay?
we know where she is.
Was that testimony given to the defense?
Probably.
The defense, no.
Was I present at the hearing where you testified about this?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Yeah, it's sustained because it was grand jury. She was not present, and she knows she wasn't present, Ms. Little. And it absolutely was never given to the defense. And they covered it up and lied and withheld that Nicole Albert knew exactly where Chloe was allegedly.
Your Honor, can we approach?
Sure.
And here's one of the sidebars that we did not get to hear about that are now going to be unsealed, that the court reporters are furiously transcribing as a result of the defense motion to unseal the sidebars so that they can prepare for the next trial. Because right now, this is outrageous. This is, you want to talk about a blatant violation of Rule 14 and automatic disclosure. The fact that the prosecution, that Lally's witness is testifying that they knew the entire time where Chloe was and that she knew and that she told him. This is outrageous. So let's see how long this sidebar went on for. We're at 57:34. Outrageous. Not even a minute long. Can you imagine? I would have been going ballistic. We want a mistrial. This is a blatant violation of Brady, Rule 14, Rule Lampron, whatever. Throw it all out there. Lanigan. So we don't know what was said at that sidebar. We don't know what Lally said in response to that. But this is outrageous. If she was needed, right? Why would she say if she was needed? Huh. Well, Chloe is needed, says Deanna. Thank you, Martha. Awkward silence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
What does all this have to do with her qualifications? We're just going over this because it has to do with Chloe and the fact that they
Ms.
withheld where
Albert,
Chloe
you're
was
aware that we actually sought
and her bite history. That's what it has
records
to do with.
regarding Chloe and her bite history, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Was it from this witness?
It was.
That's a yes or no from there. Yes or no?
Well, it was
They don't even let him go there about the bite history.
Okay. I'm going to sustain the objection.
So bizarre, right? Why did he agree to take this?
All right, Ms. Albert, I want to direct your attention back to the early morning of January 29th.
So now they go on
Mhm.
about other things,
You
but
testified.
I can't wait to see what they talked about during that sidebar, right? Brendan didn't watch this first trial, and we know more about it, this whole case, than he does. He still should have learned about it before taking him on. Yep. Good luck trying to disqualify Dr. Marie Russell, in my opinion. In fact, her testimony may be expanded to include hit and run injuries on pedestrians because she's highly qualified in that as well. Becky says they need him to testify. Thanks for the 10, Becky. Furious, I sent you a message on Insta, updated Rule 14. I can't, for some reason, my Instagram messages go into like a black hole and I can't pull them up on my computer, but I'll take a look at that later. Thanks, sweetheart. Jazia says, I'd like to know why Chloe was a rescue dog to start with and who her former owners were. Do washed out canines become rescues? Could. They might. They could be. Could be. Camille, thanks for the 5. Maybe they will say their intentions in the motion were misunderstood because spelling errors. Could they do that? The Scrivener's errors. They've used Scrivener's errors as excuses for a lot of things during this trial, including Proctor's, wrong time on his search warrant applications and reports and misspelling witnesses' names and things. A lot of Scrivener's errors. Camille says, I have rescued 2 aggressive dogs from different shelters in different states to rehabilitate and retrain. That's very kind of you. Thanks for your super chat. Anissa, thanks for your super chat. I've always wanted to know why Brian Jr. wasn't interviewed or put on the stand. Brian Jr. did testify. He did testify. Remember, he testified about his birthday. Bri. He did. I remember. Thank you, Reed, for your 10. I'm wondering, based on the request for opinion on each wound, is the Commonwealth trying to find out what the defense's strategy is regarding using her for wounds versus arm wounds? Well, I think that was specific to the arm because she didn't testify about the head injuries. But if they want to expound on her testimony and they want her to testify that these were not the result of a car accident, it's an interesting thought. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog, said Mark Twain. Thank you for the 5. Did I bite him? Did I bit him? Arlene, it's all about the way they're raised to attack everyone and protect when told. Love you, Melanie. Oh, thanks, Arlene. I love you too. And also, when you're getting a rescue, you don't know how they're raised, right? Taking a chance. So you don't know. Charlotte said, who would pay for finding and providing all those cases of Dr. Russell's? That would cost a small fortune. Every expert witness keeps a list of all the cases that they give depositions in or testify in. So if we're talking about those cases, those are typically maintained by the expert witness. And I'm sure she has a list of every single case she's ever testified in court in. If they are asking for every single case, as in every single patient she ever treated with regard to dog bites, that's going to be virtually impossible. In that case, it said you can give us your calculation or how you came to the conclusion that you've treated over 500 dog bites. And I'm sure that she could probably opine on that. So there's that. Even a rescue, you train them your way. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. Ooh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. To see if we have some more questions here. Sandra for the Venmo, who can't figure out how to super chat. Sand fan. Thank you so much. Actually, Venmo is way better because YouTube takes 30% of all super chats. So if you guys want a Venmo or Cash App, I'll still read your questions. But thank you for that. And it's actually better. So thank you so much for that, Sandra. I appreciate you so much for thanking me. And also, you are amazing. All right, you guys, we have some more stuff to cover on this, which is probably best for a separate show. And I want to go over the podcast with you. Because, Sharon, thank you for the 3 matcha lattes, for saying that I always make your day better. That is very, 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 very sweet of you. You guys make my day better. I love spending my days with you. I got to take a break for a little while because I have to do some mommy things this afternoon. And also, if a verdict breaks on Daniel Penny, I got to be ready for that. So perhaps after the jury is let go for the day today, and if there's any time tonight, we can do my thoughts on Phelps' podcast, because I do think that there are many things in that podcast that could be very helpful to the defense. Let me just see if our friend Inner City Press has any updated tweets on Daniel Penny. Oh, they just handed the clerk a note 4 minutes ago. Uh-oh. We have a note. As of 4 minutes ago on Daniel Penny. The jurors want the Vasquez and Rosario videos. And the judge says, I'll send them in the laptop again. So 1 minute ago. So they're going back. They want all the videos. They want all the videos taken by all the passerbys, all the people on the train, all the people on the platform. So I think that is very, very good. Everyone, please put your prayers up for Daniel Penny. Please put your prayers up for Daniel Penny. And hopefully he's acquitted, and hopefully soon. But the jury is taking it very, very, very seriously. And they have not come back with a deadlock note yet. So I have faith. I have faith in the jurors. I think they're going to come back. I think they're going to hopefully acquit him, make the right decision. And justice, maybe we'll see justice served twice in the same month between Brian Camp and Daniel Penny. We can only hope and pray. Inner City Press is the best for New York courts, Stephanie. It's my go-to on this case. I was also following the reporter from Channel 1, from News 1, but I find Inner City Press has got like minute-by-minute updates. And apparently he must be able to use his phone in the courtroom. And he's great at transcribing. And that reminds me, I got to send him a Venmo or something, because he's really helped me a lot on Penny and keeping up with all of the deets on that very unfortunate sitch going on today at 100 Center Street in downtown Manhattan. Thank you to the moderators. You guys are amazing. I love you with all of my heart. To the viewers, replay viewers, channel members, I could not do this without you. You make my days so much brighter and better. And thanks for watching the Christmas tree lighting with me again this morning, because that was so much fun. All right, you guys, until I see you again, make sure you have the notifications set to all. Make sure your phone allows notifications from YouTube, because when I go live on Daniel Penny, it may just be at a very moment's notice. They did actually, Mark, on one of the last shows that I did on Daniel Penny, we went over the voir dire on that case, and many of the jurors who are sitting on that case have had similar subway interactions. Many of them have been mugged or robbed, or have family members who were. So it's an interesting case. When Brian testified, Kristen said he had to hold Chloe by the collar because she jumps. Do all the things that YouTube likes. Please help a girl out. Just smash the like button. comment respectfully, share the stream out, tell your friends, come back later, and stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. I know you guys can do it. I know you guys can, because it's really not hard. It is really not hard. Lift someone up today. Give a stranger a compliment. I used to tell my kids when they were little, when we go out for the day on our adventures, I'd be like, okay, everybody just give like random compliments to people. And we would like keep track of them. You don't never know what your kind words could say, how they could help someone. Check Stoughton on the duck case. Okay. I don't know what that means, but I will. If you have any information, feel free to email it to me. It's hard for me to do homework, but Tracy the Vegan, thank you so much as always for your super chat. Goodbye, my friends. See you real soon. Peace. Oh, I do know that some of those certain cases were thrown out, right? Like the ones that Buchanan was investigating about the girls or women who had sent like Facebook messages to some of the people here, right? A lot of those they decided to not press charges on. The magistrate dismissed them, but not on Richard Schiffer's case, right? Okay, that's what I think it is. Fanbase at mlittlelaw.com. All right, you guys, peace out. See you soon.